Welcome to the Awaken Ireland Show on TNS Radio. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, on Monday the 7th of May 2012. And welcome to the Awaken Ireland Radio Show. We've got a couple of surprises for you this evening. I'd just like to say hello to everybody out in DBC in Waterford. That's Deadbeat Central. You know who you are, guys. Good evening. We're going to, as I said, we have a very interesting evening this evening, and I'm just going to give you over to James now, who's going to give us a rundown on what's going on.
Well, good morning, everybody out there in the TNS world and far beyond. We have some very, very good news for you this morning. I only found out a couple of hours ago that Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert of the cable show Russia Today, Max Kaiser reports, they are going to be available to travel to Ireland for the 27th of May to the Financial Terrorism Expo in the Stillorgan Park Hotel. Again, that's the 27th of May, the Financial Terrorism Expo, and they have the flights booked, from what I've been told, and it's absolutely incredible news. They really want to help out. They believe that Ireland is going to be the centre of incredible change in Europe and also worldwide. This is what Max Kaiser has said many times in his previous reports over the last year. So yeah, he wants to do whatever he can. So I mean, there'll be serious bumps on seats for that. So that's brilliant news. We've got Paul Byrne on from Awaken Wicklow. Paul was at the Ishnok Festival there yesterday, and he's playing music up there, and he's going to give us an update about the festival and also what's happening in Wicklow and other areas of the country that he's involved with. He's on at 10 past. We have then a lovely surprise for you for tonight's show. Max Igan of the Crow House fame, Paul.
That's right.
Max Egan's going to be on at 12:30, and we're really, really looking forward to that. He's gone off for a quick shower and a coffee.
And a coffee, so he said, yep.
And he'll be ready to rock and roll.
In about 40 minutes, so stay tuned.
All the way from the other side of the world, which is absolutely amazing. I just can't get my head around. I'm going to be speaking to somebody over the internet who's actually upside down, which is brilliant. So we have Treacy O'Connor is going to... we have a pre-recorded interview with Treacy O'Connor of Awaken Dublin, and Treacy is also at Ishnok, and she's going to give you a nice update about all of the different activities happening around Awaken Ireland over the past couple of weeks, and she's going to be a regular on the show as well. And Aisling Fitzgibbon then of Awaken Kerry is going to be on talking about Flouride and other issues as well, and how she got involved with the Awaken Ireland Movement, and she'll be in about 10 past 2. And so the Max Igan was a surprise for us. We weren't actually aware that we're going to be getting an interview with him so early this morning, this week, but we're going to roll with it, and we've had to drop an interview, but we'll have that interview in with Cathy Sinnott next week, a very, very interesting and important interview about a possible children's rights referendum. Very, very scary information indeed, and we will have that for you in the next live show and podcast also. So we're going to give Paul a quick buzz, but before we do that, we're going to play a little bit of music, and this is
just a quick thanks to our Labradoodle Murphy for organising Max Igan at such short notice. Thank you, Murphy.
Absolutely. And on the phone on Skype we have Paul Byrne. Paul, you're very welcome to the show for the first time.
How you doing, James? Hey, Paul.
Good evening, Paul.
Just going to bring up your volume there a small bit there, Paul. You're very low.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
you
better.
Now?
Yeah, got you.
We got you now. Paul, you've been up in Ishnok there. I heard you had a great time, and you met loads of Awaken Ireland people at the event.
I did, yeah. There was a good few people around. People I know. Treacy was up there. You mentioned Treacy earlier on. I ran into Treacy quite early on.
Yeah.
And in fine form she was. And Dara was up there. Dara Kenny. And I believe Dara and Treacy lit the fire. There was 7 of them lit the fire with the big signal fire, which is the main event.
Yeah.
Which is highly... You know, it's a great development. People from Awaken Ireland were there at this very auspicious, very Irish, very ancient festival, and lit the fire, bringing in the summer, hopefully a summer of very positive change for us.
Well, at least banishing the winter.
Ian Dunn was also up there. I ran into Ian a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, great collection of people, great vibe at the festival.
Fantastic. Before you go into your update about what you've been up to, could you give a little bit of a history about the Ishnok, about how far back it goes into the annals of time?
Well, it's the oldest festival in Europe, Apparently the Romans used to, come in the time when the Roman Empire was big in the world. They used to send people up to it, and it's thousands of years old as far as I know. It stretches way back, and it's a festival to mark Bealtaine. I'll bring in the start of the summer.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a very ancient festival, man. I couldn't put an exact figure on it, but it goes right back. It's one of our original events,
Absolutely.
And they revived it a few years ago. Apparently there's always people on the hill, a handful of people every year. But they've revived it and made it the big festival that it used to be again,
How many people were up there?
There was about 5,000, Paul.
Wow. Fantastic.
That must
I was there 2 years ago and there was less, so it's building up.
Well, I'll definitely be there next year. I couldn't go. I had the communion on this weekend, but the young fella made us his Holy Communion.
Oh yeah, well, you have to go to that.
You have to go to that. Jesus, be shot.
Allegedly.
Go to that. Allegedly, yeah. It's more social pressure than anything else. It's got nothing to do with the rituals of the Catholic Church for me,
Everyone's busy with the old world order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we won't go into the church here.
That's topic for another evening, for another 50,000 hours.
Too boring. Okay, so anyway, Paul, we met you for the very first time down below in the Bog Hill Centre, and I was very taken, Paul.
Well, I actually met you a bit later, Paul.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually at the Bog Hill. Yeah.
But I was very taken with your ability to stand up in front of a load of people you just met with a notepad and give a presentation. That's the first time.
Some things you have to do,
Exactly, it has to be done.
At the moment.
Yeah, fair play to Leroy on you. I said, fair play to that guy anyways. You got a fair play to Leroy there?
Same as yourselves, boys. You are getting up talking to thousands of people here online on the radio show, and a great job you are doing of it too. So
it has to be done.
We're a bit shy.
We're a bit shy at the moment. Well, I am, to say the least. It's a bit strange sitting here and realising there may be a couple of hundred or maybe even a couple of thousand people listening. It can be a bit scary just sitting in your own back kitchen.
Well, you're doing a great job on it anyway. You in particular, Paul, you have a great voice for it, but you could do voiceovers, man. It could be some money to be made in it if you've got a great broadcasting voice.
No, I'm not into money. I'm not into fiction, Paul. I never was. I'm not into paper. Yeah. I'm into people and life,
I reckon he could take over the Jerry Ryan slot that's been vacant, more or less, because Ryan Tubridy's not doing the job at all. We could get Paul in there. What do you think?
Yeah, put some interesting content on rather than the crap that's usually
exactly.
on it.
Yeah,
we'll get on to that tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can't buy me though. I'm not for sale. That's the only problem,
It's the way to be. Can't buy a free man.
Exactly.
So Paul, anyway, look, I mean, your thing is you're an engineer by trade, or a structural engineer. That's what you studied in college. That's what you worked in. So when I mentioned the Bog Hill Centre, what you were all about was an alternative energy system that would run on a very, very highly efficient system, not necessarily just one system, but you look at loads of different energy systems, possibilities for our own future here in Ireland, and that's what you talked about in the Bog Hill. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, just briefly. Well, yeah, look, I have a range of interests, and my main interest is I don't like the way the world is. That's, to put it mildly. It's badly run. That's a very euphemistic way of putting it. It's in a mess. And everything, essentially, you can look at it one way as an energy balance. Those who don't have the energy are the ones in a bad situation, which would be most of the world. So the energy control structure, the big corporate behemoth that it consists of, has the monopoly on energy in the world. And if there was a different, it doesn't matter what the source is, the first one to come along that gives cheap energy can change that, has the potential to make life very different, very much better.
Yeah.
So that's one of my interests. If we didn't have there's a misnomer in the term free energy. There's nothing for free, but there is very cheap energy available. And I think from looking into it that there are many systems there's been a lot of suppression. Yeah. Even look, if you go as far as more efficient engines, still running the way we run them, we could have them, but there's no money for the big corporations in releasing that energy. So yeah, I look at any possible new systems coming out, and I think how could they be implemented and how could we make it wide scale? So when I was talking to you when I was down at the Bog Hill, I was talking about low energy nuclear reactions, which seems to be a technology that's coming out hopefully this year, coming to market. And if it does come, I was trying to tell people about this because not many people know.
Yeah.
And if that technology does come available, it would be very beneficial for, say, Ireland to install it, because immediately you take the power literally into the hands of the people.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that. And from actually talking to you, it's great to meet people such as yourselves, because from talking to yourself and Paul, I've been looking into biogas over the last few weeks, and thinking about how to get biogas installed, because you wouldn't even need any other type of energy. You can make electricity from that.
Yeah.
That's my brief rundown of my interest in energy. The possibilities, if we get cheap energy, are limitless. Everything becomes possible. Yeah. And economically, which is really key, cheap energy gives the potential to shift the economic situation in the world from scarcity to abundance.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge difference,
Yeah.
You would take the struggle for survival away from people. Most people are struggling to survive, and that's taken up their life and their potential and their creativity and their initiative and their abilities are being wasted because they're in a survival struggle.
That's right, Paul. I mean, people basically spend most of their week just getting up and going to work and coming home, looking after the family, making the dinner, looking into the weapon of mass deception being the television box for a couple of hours, spaced out, and then collapse into bed wrecked, tired, and they don't have any time to use the creative element of their minds,
Yeah, exactly. It's a waste.
Absolutely. So come here, tell us what you've been up to lately, Annie, because we got you on to give us an update about what you've been doing,
Well, what I've been doing lately is an interesting thing, actually. One of the things that we determined we would do post-Bog Hill was to approach other groups which already exist, to build this movement, the Awaken Movement. We all recognise that there's a need for not a controlling entity, but some sort of wide, broad appeal movement, which can hopefully unite all these groups.
Yeah.
Not to take them under a banner, but just to get everybody pulling in the same direction, because there's many groups of people in the country who want the same thing, which is our country fixed and taken back for us. Mm-hmm. So I went to the household charge, a local household charge meeting, which is up in West Wicklow. And I spoke to the people there, and what I suggested to them was that we host a similar event to the Bog Hill, which is a type of conversational event which many of the Bog Hillers are working on at the moment,
mm-hmm.
Which is to, again, recreate in as close a way as possible, or in a similar way, the meeting that we had in the Bog Hill. The result of the meeting in the Bog Hill was that everybody who was there is active and a lot of stuff is happening. So it's to get the people in the locality themselves to figure out what they want, what do they want to do, where can we go with this country. So I suggested that, and it was very well received, and that's going to happen soon. And also I said that if they wanted, we could organise regular information nights. And I said that, because I've been up with Ben Gilroy and John Squires there a few days ago, talking to them, and they're doing great work. And what they've started is, as you know, but maybe your listeners wouldn't be aware, they've reignited the Direct Democracy Ireland Party.
That's right. That's right.
We had him on the show last week, talking all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Ben and the guys are great guys. They're real people, like salt of the earth,
All great guys.
Without agendas.
Very good. Yeah. They have a very good intention, in my opinion, with this Direct Democracy, which is just simply, the party manifesto is give the control of the country to the people via referendum, and have the power of recall for any politician, and the ability to table legislation. People collect enough signatures and put whatever suggestion it is to the government, and a referendum must be held on it. So I explained this very briefly to the members of this meeting against the household charge, and I said, if you'd like, I can get them down to talk. So we've arranged that now. They love the idea, and Ben and the guys are willing to come down. So yet to be confirmed fully, about 99% it's going to be on the 23rd of this month in Tinnahealy.
Okay.
And so that's Ben Gilroy, People for Economic Justice, hopefully on the 29th of, what month is this? This is May, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
In Tinnahealy. And I also suggested, because I know yourself and myself, or the both of you and myself and Barry Callahan and Aisling Fitzgibbon and Marta Brazel down in Kerry have been given presentations of nights, a kind of roadshow of sorts, and I also suggested that if the people at this meeting would like, we can also do that maybe one a week, have a couple of presentations, because we have a nice venue lined up there.
Great.
And they also like that. So that's what I've been at now the last week. And I will say that I found that the people in the anti-household tax meeting are really just waiting. They're looking for the next thing, for the direction.
Yeah, they don't want to just disband, Paul. Do you know what I mean? After all the hard work they've done and the unification of all the different people from different backgrounds and stuff, there's great energy in that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And these people the issue is not the household charge. The household charge is the straw that broke the camel's back. The issue is the state of the country and what's happened.
Yeah.
And these people are very active and they're very keen to genuinely fix this broken situation.
Well, Paul, it's very good to see that communities are now uniting, yeah? Because that's what we actually need. We need communities to unite. And Max Igan's going to be on in about 10 or 15 minutes, and that's exactly what they are, the solutions he is actually offering. He goes into a very in-depth detail on everything what's going on in the world at the moment, but he also offers solutions, and that's basically one of the solutions he offers, that we come back to a community spirit, which is happening here in Ireland.
It is.
And at a pace which is actually, it's for me, it's frightening, but it's fantastic on the other side. I didn't think it would actually take off this quick.
No, it's great. Really, this time last year, the outlook was very grim,
Yeah.
Personally, especially this weekend, experiencing the energy up in Ishnock, Irish, Gaelic energy, a real strong force. The Irish have something in us that's coming out now. It's bubbling up. It's you can see the signs everywhere. And funnily enough, interestingly, I think myself, there's a quirky aspect to this, which is a lot of people are out of work, including myself.
Yeah.
And when you're out of work, you realise that you were working a lot of your time, and there's no time to do anything else, like think about certain things. People are too busy in the survival race. Now that a lot of people are out of work, they're suddenly going, well, it's not. No, why were we working so much anyway?
Exactly.
Not that we should never work. Obviously, everyone has to work.
For a lot of people, it's cool to look busy, Oh, I'm busy, and they're running about and they're doing this, that, and the other. But they're actually being distracted from themselves and their own lives and from their own centre.
Yeah, and now people are looking inside themselves now, going, who am I? Who are the Irish? What's this country? They're thinking the big philosophical questions now. Going,
exactly.
This is a big aspect, I think, of the revival. People are appraising the whole situation in general and going, well, hold on a minute, not only is this situation broken, but it was never right to begin with,
And what was my role in it? Yeah, exactly.
And there's a real desire to properly fix this now and do it right.
Yeah, we're looking at a renaissance rather than a revolution, I reckon.
It's a renaissance, exactly.
Yeah, I remember you said that at the Bog Hill, and I like that idea, because I actually asked you what the difference was between a renaissance and a revolution. Why don't you explain that to people, Paul?
Okay, a revolution changes mostly the political way a country is run, doesn't it? And historically, revolutions are very messy and lots of people get hurt and die, which is not desirable, obviously. Peaceful revolutions, far better, great. But a renaissance is when something new appears, something new in knowledge or in art or in our understanding of who we are as a species, Mm-hmm. Like the Renaissance in the medieval times, there was a technology advanced. There was, the realization that, the Earth is not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And we actually go around the sun, which was a controversial one, especially in parts of Italy, like Rome. Yeah. And they didn't like that.
They didn't like Copernicus too much for that one, did they?
No, Copernicus wasn't getting any gold stars from the Vatican for that one, right?
No.
But so yeah, the Renaissance happened, and the Renaissance, music, art, philosophy, reason, flourished, and the way of life on the planet changed to the good. And I think that can happen again, even without a new energy source would be great, fantastic, that would cause a renaissance of sorts. But I think that what's happening now, it's a spiritual understanding and a moral one as well, because people can morally see that the world is run by very immoral people.
You just hit the nail on the head there, Paul, actually.
And yes, yeah. And when people are growing up, say with the free man philosophy, people that generally don't understand it fully are wary of it, saying, free men are anarchists and they no responsibility. And it's the opposite. When you learn to understand the law, you become responsible. You don't break the law.
Well, that's
They
it.
might,
I mean,
they might transgress some statutes, but that's not the law.
yeah, the ancient Irish, they lived and they breathed the law, the Brehon law. You know,
Exactly.
Vinny talks about this all the time. It was part of their culture. I mean, the law is not part of our culture. It's a foreign concept. I mean, most people don't have any, they don't have any dealings with the law in this country unless you end up in an accident, or, you drive too fast, or you pay your taxes properly, or something like that. Most people in the country,
Credit
over 90%,
dispute.
yeah, most over 90% of the population, they never really have any contact. And when they do it, they're scared of their lives when they go into the place because it's so inhospitable.
Yeah, exactly. But most people are law-abiding.
That's it.
They're honourable. And as you say, the Brehon law, you see, this is what we're not told as well. And I think this is a big part of why Ireland is very important in the current transition awakening, because we've been told a lot of nonsense about our ancient history. It's, poor savages running around half naked in Ireland.
It's a little bit more than a lot of nonsense, Paul.
It's
complete, total nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just lies and deception.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's the world is flat ideology, basically. That's what we've been told,
Yeah,
in relation to our heritage and our history.
Conquer and divide.
Exactly.
And what was the overall feeling like? Were you talking to different people up in Ishnock? I'm sure you were, about the Awaken Ireland movement, and what sort of reaction were you getting from those conversations?
Positive reaction. People in general didn't know about it. Which is why things like what you're doing here with the radio show is great. Any sort of publicity and explanation of what it is are great. But yeah, reaction was positive. Main reason for that is, guys, as you well know yourself, it's like that saying, don't come to me with a problem, come with a solution.
That's
exactly.
Problems.
We don't do problems.
There's loads of problems.
We do solutions.
Talk about solutions.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's the ethos of the Awaken Ireland movement, isn't it? Really, it's all about solutions. It's all about that from day one. I mean, even the way the bog killers were brought together. I mean, they were from all different parts of the country. People of all different races were there. There was people from Germany and people from England. There was people from all over, America. There was a real mix there, young and old as well. I mean, the age bracket went from early 20s to
70s probably, yeah.
Sorry,
yourself,
Paul.
James.
The saying that Richard Moore said.
The saying that Richard Moore said. I don't have that book with me.
Okay.
We'll drop that in later on. Paul reminded me that I wanted to throw something in there. The book's actually in the other room because I got distracted with the Max Igan interview that's popped up out of nowhere. But just to go back to what I was saying there, is that it's so eclectic. There's such a mix that I can't think that it can fail, Paul, really, to be honest with you, because it's everyone's been represented from every walk of life, really, in the initial stages of this movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, we're not revolting, Paul. We're offering solutions. And that's what Richard Moore said. Now, I haven't read his book. James is going to fly off now and grab it. But that's a quote that I brushed across. There's no point actually doing, being in conflict. You have to just offer a solution. Then you're empowering yourself. You're staying in power.
Yeah. Well, it's like, exactly. Oh, yeah, I am. James sent me that quote. I actually have it a text. It's like, if the members of a movement make demands, if a movement make demands, then it's acknowledging that there's a power structure external to them, which they have to beg. But if movement offers solutions, then they're creating and they're empowering the members of the movement.
Okay, well, I came across this, Paul, in the book that...
I just read it out, but go for it again anyway.
Sorry, I didn't realise. I just got the book. I didn't realise that you just read it.
No, I paraphrased it. Read it out there.
But thanks anyway, Paul, for...
I
did send you. I thought it was so good I sent it on to you. We're going to get Richard on the show, actually, over the coming weeks. It says that if a movement makes demands, then it is affirming that power resides elsewhere, in that person or agency which is the target of the demands. If a movement creates solutions, then it is asserting its own empowerment. It is taking responsibility for its own welfare.
Absolutely, yeah.
And on that note, we're going to have to finish up with you there, Paul, because we have Max Igan. Then he's going to be coming in very shortly. We need to play a little song there just to get him on the phone. So thanks very much for coming on, and we'll get you on another time to talk about the alternative energies, if you don't mind.
No problem, yeah, anytime, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'd be interested now. I'm looking forward to hearing the Max Igan interview. Great work.
Just before you go, Paul, we'd just like to say LENR, just where the website is, just that people can look into it who are interested.
Yeah, okay, well, if you go to what would be the best website for Eleanor? See, there's a few I follow. There's a blog called Free Energy Truth, all one word, which is a blog that covers it. And there's actually, sorry, I'm a little bit tired after the festival, so I'm trying
You're okay.
There's a compilation website which compiles stories from lots of different websites called ecatnow.com. It's good for getting stories. And also there's a website called pesn.com. That's Pure Energy Systems News. That has a good they follow it, they're following the story as it develops. There's 4 or 5 or maybe half a dozen companies potentially coming out with this technology now. There's competition in it. So hopefully it turns out to be an actual technology that we can use. So yeah, 2 websites would be the best to go to. ecatnow, that's ecatnow.com. They compile news stories, so there's lots of links there. And pesn.com.
Fantastic.
You can go to those and check out the story again.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks for talking to us, and we'll get in touch with you very soon.
Thanks, guys.
And get an update.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you, Paul.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Paul.
Bye.
I'm sure you'll find something.
Your transformation, your latest video.
Okay, yeah, well, that was, I was really wondering how it was going to be received, the film, Transformation. I put a lot of information in there which may be a little bit unsettling to people.
Yeah,
but, it's just something that I really wanted to do. And I really wanted people in the first part of the film to kind of question their history a little bit, just to realise that questions exist. And that, we perhaps need to answer these questions. I mean, some of the things I was asking, like, how do we come up with metal? Would you come up with metal if you were a hunter and gatherer?
Not a chance, actually. That's a question I asked myself many times. I studied in Germany. I'm actually Irish. I've been away in Germany and Europe, Switzerland many years, and I now moved back to Ireland, but I'm familiar with technology myself. But I still, with my knowledge, do not have the means to make any of this equipment that's around me with my bare hands.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, where does it all come from? Where did technology come from?
Exactly.
I mean, sure, maybe some guy threw a rock in a fire one day and a bit of metal melted out and all this sort of stuff, but that's not the point. The point is that what we've been told about history is completely wrong. I wrote a book that proved this back in 2005 called Earth's Forbidden Secrets. But the thing is, they tell us we started off as, hunters and gatherers in these tribal cultures, and we gradually became civilized. Well, in that time frame, in that series of events that modern history gives us, or mainstream history gives us, where did they come up with metals? Why would they come up with metals? If they were hunters and gatherers and they're just supporting their families and they're living in these tribal cultures, why would they even think that they needed metal?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
The idea
and if you look at things like
there.
the Indian text and the Indian teachings, you find that it's the discovery of iron, that's the beginning of the downfall of man. It happens every cycle.
This is the Vedas,
how did all this happen,
Yeah. Is this in the Vedas?
Yeah. Like they always talk about, like the Yugas. The beginning of Kali Yuga is when the discovery of iron, basically.
Right.
Because it's the discovery of iron that brings about things such as the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And nuclear reactors and all the stuff that we've got now, cars and this modern transport system and the oil-based culture and all this sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, you actually asked this question in Transformation, what if you could change the world? Would you? Would you actually change it? And that set a spark off in me, as you said, with nuclear weapons and all this technology we have. Where do these ideas actually come from? Because I would not have
this
these
become
ideas.
part of our psyche?
Yeah.
That's the question. And the question was, what if you could change the world by changing your perspective of it? Because if you really change your perspective and start looking at the world in this manner and just start asking these questions, then it does change your perspective of the world, and it's that inner change, that changing of your perspective of reality around you, that's the beginning. That's the first step. You've got to change your perspective of what the world is.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking in the first section of the film, and then I just sort of went on through the transhumanist thing, which sort of indicates where they're taking us. I mean, if you look at all the advertising, if you look at the movies, you look at the subtext that's happening all throughout movies and advertising and the pop culture, it's all leading towards transgenderism and transhumanism, which are two in the one and the same thing, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to break down that barrier between the genders in order to bring about this transhumanist culture.
Yeah,
and it's where they're going, and they tell us that's where they're going. I mean, Ray Kurzweil puts out his film and says, "Hey, this is what we want to do. We basically want to assimilate the universe so we can create God."
That's right.
These people are mad. I mean, they're insane. Even the thought of sending nanoparticulates out into the universe to just assimilate everything you find, it's absurd. And they tell you what they're doing all the way through it. The film that came out recently, The Hunger Games, was all basically the same thing. Agenda 21. Mega cities connected by monorails, people living in abject poverty in the surrounding regions. The only thing wrong with the film was that the people who lived in the surrounding regions still looked human.
Right.
But what they want to do is they want to merge this into this subculture, this little...
What was that movie called again, Max?
People,
What was that movie called again? Okay, I haven't come across it. More
it's a new film that came out, and it basically describes Agenda 21. You've got this effeminate transgendic culture living in big cities. You've got a class of overlords like the Rothschilds, if you will,
Yeah.
The rich mega controllers at the very top who control the city. The city collects resources from the outlying regions. These people live in abject poverty. And they've got game arenas where they run blood sports, and the game arenas, the ground's full of nanotechnology. You can create anything you want out of it. Create a dog come out of the ground here and control the sky and control everything.
Well, here in Ireland, funnily enough, we got news this week of one of these smart cities being developed near Athlone in the centre of Ireland from a Chinese, some sort of Chinese financing. That's what the government is telling us anyway. It looks like one of these smart cities, where they take people basically off the land out into smart zones and control them.
Well, it's all presented to the people as being very attractive. It's all these cities that basically voice activated and all this sort of stuff, facial recognition, voice recognition. It's all presented to you as this great modern dream, and it could be wonderful. All this sort of stuff could be really good. It could really, really serve humanity. But it's being put in place in such a manner, in a way that it's not going to serve humanity. It's all about a control grid, as you say.
It's an open prison where, free range.
All of this is leading towards transhumanism. It's all part of the same agenda.
Yeah. And you also said in the documentary that democracy requires civil disobedience. It's a very, very interesting point.
Well, yeah, Howard Zinn was a remarkable man, and it does require civil disobedience. If it isn't run with the consent, everything that the government does, if it doesn't have the consent of the people, then it's not a democracy. We're told that a democratic government is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. Now, I'm not any fan of democracy. Plato believed that democracy was the worst form of government you could have because in a democracy, 51% of the people control the other 49% of the people. Mm-hmm. I think we need constitutional republics that have democratic systems incorporated within those republics. That's what I believe. I don't know what you'd call it. I'm not really into any isms. But in a constitutional republic, everyone has specific unalienable rights that cannot be taken from them.
That's right.
The right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, all this sort of stuff.
Sovereignty, or individual sovereignty, basically.
Well, basically, yeah, everybody has that. But then if you want to build a bridge or do this or do that or whatever, we can have a referendum. That's a democratic method of deciding, if the people, want to build a bridge or whatever,
Yeah.
But you need to have basic rules in place of do no harm is the basis of all of it. Do no harm to your environment, do no harm to the people. Serve the creation that you live in.
Yeah.
The whole system we've got is completely flawed, and democracy has its place, but not as a system of government. But anyway, so even in a democracy, even in what we've got, the only way the people can actually control the government in any way or stand up against whatever pieces of legislation the government want to bring in and claim to be law is through civil disobedience. Mm-hmm. And so that's why people need to understand the power of this. And in order to do that, they need to understand the power of themselves, and that's what they've been led away from.
Their individual sovereignty, that they can say, no, we don't consent to this. I do not consent. You do not have my consent.
Well, yeah, but the problem is, as I said, is people don't have the power within them to do that. They're in fear. They're in fear of being who and what they are. They forget that they are a living, breathing man. They're not a name. They're not a number.
That's
and
true.
the people that are doing this, they're just men. They're just flesh and blood, the same as us. There's no difference.
But people are luckily waking up to this now.
Well, they are, because we employ these people to do the opposite of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So and they're going to keep doing it until we hold them accountable for their actions, because no one else is going to hold them accountable. You know, we see government corruption and we think, oh, gee, the government better act to fix that. Well, hang on a minute. You know, you're never going to get them to investigate themselves. Yeah. It's like you telling me, you claiming that I stole money from you, and I saying, oh, no worries, I'll investigate that for you and get back to you with the result.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't investigate yourself. You know, someone who's accused of a crime can't investigate themselves. And these governments are basically stealing everything, and then they're investigating themselves about it. And we're not doing anything about it because we've forgotten that they're actually our employees.
Yeah. But luckily, people are now waking up to this. I do see solutions there, but like things like, as you discussed in your documentary, chemtrails and Morgellons. Like this area, this is quite scary actually when you see what's actually going on, what we are mutating into, what they are trying to do with us. Like, do you see any solutions for this?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, people just aren't noticing this. It's going on around them. There's so many rabbit holes they're going down, and they're not looking. And if you step back and look at the bigger picture and try to think, well, okay, there's all of this stuff going on. You know, we've got this Morgellons syndrome, we've got chemtrails, we've got HAARP, we've got all the vaccinations, we've got all the GM food. Yeah. Now, what's actually going on here? How does it all fit together? And then you look at a thing like Kurzweil's film, and you see this transhumanist agenda. Then you see what they're telling you in the subtext of all the movies and all the TV shows and everything, the scenario that they're creating in people's minds. And then you have a look at the drop in the male sperm count, the drop in estrogen in women, and the amount of estrogen that's been putting into food and stuff. And it's amazing. Everything that's going on, it's absolutely amazing. And when you put it all together, what you get is this transhumanist agenda. And it's right there. It's in front of everybody's faces. And they're telling you what they're doing. And they're preparing people for it with all of this subtext in movies, implants, all of this digital culture, smart meters, the whole lot. You've got Bill Gates there saying that we want to set up a satellite grid to control agriculture, to fix world hunger. Right? They want a satellite grid of GM food all over the world, so they can keep track of what everybody's growing. That's what this is all about. Yeah. Totally wipes out any organic food, makes you grow GM food, and they genetically manipulate everything. And they're setting the whole thing up right now. It's right there in everybody's faces. Yeah. And I mean, you don't put in a satellite grid and grow GM crop to fix world hunger. You take the interest off money so that people aren't in a state of shortage. That gets rid of your world hunger straight away. Exactly. We can feed the world right now, but we can't afford to because we've got a money-based system. Yeah. You know, so.
And we have certain corporations that are out there and they're actually patenting plants. I saw house plants last week with a plant passport number on them. An official EU plant passport number, which recognises them. It's absolutely scary. I came back to an agricultural country which I was born in, that's Ireland, and we have no produce growing around us, Max, here. The fields are full of grass.
Yeah, they're doing that to everybody. They're taking all the food production offshore from everybody. So you'll have, like Australia grows a lot of China's food, all this sort of, but we don't get it here, Yeah. But all of this stuff's been taken offshore. All the businesses that you need to function as a society and to be self-sufficient being taken away from you. So it creates interdependency between countries.
Outsourcing.
So no country can survive without another country.
Yeah.
It's all based on import and export.
Exactly.
So we're growing apples in England and sending them across the world to America, and then England's importing their apples from Australia and stuff like this.
I picked apples in Hawke's Bay in New Zealand in 1997, bought them 8 months later in a local supermarket in the south of Germany. And then 8 months later I was home in Ireland and I bought Lake Constance German apples in Ireland, for example.
Exactly.
Absolutely ridiculous.
They're doing all of this stuff just to feed the import-export business, and they're doing it to remove self-sufficiency from each country, to remove economic sovereignty from each country. So every country is interdependent. And this is how the global New World Order has been created. This is what the New World Order is. It's a global company, a global corporation.
Yeah, it's a corporation.
It's corporatism, full-blown corporatism. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's what they're putting in place. Doing a good job of it as well, but people are waking up to it.
Well, people are starting to understand now, Max, Sorry, Max. People are starting to understand that even their own governments are actual corporations. This is information that only came to me very recently. It's actually part of a presentation that I do. I do explain to people that if you go onto a website, an English website called Dun & Bradstreet, and you type in the Republic of Ireland, a corporation pops up, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's all corporate. The whole thing's corporate. All our governments are corporations, and the whole thing that they're putting in place is a corporation. And what we're seeing with all these wars are basically hostile takeovers of other countries.
Exactly.
That's all they are. It's just incorporating people into the corporation, installing these central banking systems all around the world that enslave all the population to fictional debt. And it's very clever the way it's going. But people are waking up. We don't have a choice. I mean, things are getting so in your face now. That's the thing with fascism. The more, it becomes obvious eventually. It becomes so in your face that you can't help but see it. And then you have the opportunity to do something about it. And you have the duty to do something about it as well.
Act locally and think globally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, violent revolution, we don't need violent revolution. This is what's being pushed by people, and it's what's happened in the past when we've seen this. But what we've got in history now is a really unique moment, because we've got people who are spiritually awake as well. People who are starting to realize the power that they have as human beings, as a flesh and blood man, answerable only to God, the Creator, whatever they perceive is there. That is really the ultimate thing for them. There's nothing else between them and their Creator. And people are starting to realize this, and they're starting to be able to stand in their power and realize that all of these rules that are in place that are affecting their lives and that are being used to destroy the planet only exist on paper. They're not real. Exactly. They do harm to the planet, they do harm to people, they do harm to society itself. So in the breach of an actual law, there's an injured party. There always has to be an injured party in the breach of an actual law. And yet if you breach a statute and you're prosecuted for it, the only injured party is you. So the government has injured you because you broke one of their rules. So who's broke the law here? The government has, the police have.
Can I ask you, Max, have you heard of the idea of civil or criminal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's something that's been employed an awful lot in the courts in this country, and it's very frustrating for the powers that be when they actually come across that. They don't know how to deal with that, because you are separating out the difference between, is there an injured party, or are we talking about statutes here, which is contracts? So what are we talking about here?
Absolutely. If you're a flesh and blood man, answerable only to God, that flesh, you're a body of living flesh with blood flowing in your veins. Well, how are you liable for the breach of a statute? You just need to seek remedy from the court, because obviously you've been brought there for the wrong reasons. Yeah,
the problems that we have in this country, Max, is that they've tied in, and it's the same in your country. They've interweaved the criminal laws with statutes, the Criminal Justice Act, 1990, whatever, and that's how they tied it all up. Unless you actually know how to behave and conduct yourself in court, really you are at a loss, because you just don't understand what's going on,
Oh, absolutely. It's designed that way, it's designed that way. But, people are waking up to it, but I still believe that the best hope we've got is to connect with the people around us, because we need this power of community.
Exactly.
The whole community is divided. It's been designed to be divided, and people are taught this division from birth. It's all about supporting this meme, this idea that this system is real. The indoctrination, social indoctrination, educational indoctrination, the grading system, everything that is in our education system, it just is designed to program people to believe that this is how reality works, that this meme that enslaves us basically is real. But it's not. It only exists on paper. What's real is the people, and we've forgotten that.
Yeah. It's even geographical here, what side of the river do you come from, what football team do you follow, and, divide and conquer.
Well, all of that's tribal. That all brings out people's tribal instincts. Things like football teams, different team colours at school. They get you to belong to a clan, to belong to a tribe, to see yourself as being different from those around you.
Feeling you're part of a group.
We're in the red team. We're different to those in the gold team. And we're better than them. It's all this competition thing. And it also stimulates our need for a tribal culture. That's basically what football's about. Mm-hmm. It satisfies people's tribal instincts to go there and shout at the name of their team. And these guys are just out there kicking a ball around the field, and they're paid millions of dollars to do it because of this huge distraction that it creates in the human psyche.
Max, can I ask you, have you heard of a man called Michael Tsarian?
Yeah, I've heard of Michael Tsarian. I've actually had dinner with him when he was out here.
Oh, very good, because I was only listening to one of his podcasts there about the origins of mankind, which I find absolutely fascinating. I find the man very interesting because he's not just all love and light, which, I don't go for that stuff. I mean, the guy is very grounded, and he can quote any of the research that he's done, Could you tell us a little bit about your experience with him?
He's a good researcher.
Could you tell us a bit about your experience with Michael?
Well, I only met him there once for dinner. It was just there was a lot of people there, and it was just, we were all having dinner together at a restaurant here in Byron Bay. I went to see his talk on the Gold Coast when he was out here.
Okay.
That was good.
Okay, and where does that fit in with your ideology?
Well, yeah, he does a lot of good research. I mean, a lot of it parallels mine, a lot of it parallels other people. So you get to a certain point when you're researching that, the truth really only goes in one direction.
Exactly.
And everybody starts coming across the same things eventually.
Yeah, we'll cross over then, obviously.
Yeah. It all ends up crossing over unless you're right out there on some limb somewhere and you're not actually looking at the right things. But it's good seeing things like Michael's research because it confirms some of the stuff that I've come up with. And then you look at other people around the world, and there's all sorts of people doing it. Ben Stewart, some of his research is great, and it's confirmed mine. Ben and I have worked closely together on a couple of things. Mm-hmm. And
very interesting, man.
It's good.
I'm just curious, Max, did you go to a mainstream school, or did you go to college, or did you, were you not interested in the standard educational system in Australia?
Well, look, I got into lots of trouble at school for arguing with my teachers. I took lots of time off school.
Probably asking questions.
I left halfway through high school. For the last year that I was at high school, I didn't actually attend any of the classes. I spent most of my time in the school library, just reading history books and educating myself.
That's very strange, because that's actually parallel reality to one of the main people with TNS Radio, Vinnie Byrne. He had the exact same experience himself. He left school, I think, was about 14 years of age, and he went into a library and was just given textbooks and studied himself for his insert and his leaving cert.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I did. I just didn't get along with any of my teachers. I used to question what they were teaching me, and they'd teach me something as a fact, and I'd say, "Excuse me, I've just read a book that gives a completely different account of what you've just said. And you should be presenting that to the class as the most accepted theory, the most commonly accepted theory. But you should also be offering them the other side of the story. You're just teaching this as an out-and-out fact, and it's actually very questionable. Mm-hmm. Oh, do you want to get up and teach the class? I say, yeah, okay. And I'd get up and I'd start talking about it.
I love
it. They'd send me up the office, and I'd get the cane, and I ended up with my desk outside the principal's office. The last time I was at school in Adelaide, I had my own desk outside the principal's office because none of the classes had had me.
They must have been very nice to you in Australia. I think it would have been a lot harsher here in Ireland.
Yeah, well, I went to like three different schools or 4 different schools. So yeah, it was kind of weird. But I just left halfway through my exams one day. I just said, I've had enough of this, just walked out. And never looked back. Educated myself from that point on.
Well, you probably did yourself a huge favour there, Max, and everyone that listens to your show, because it sent you down a completely different route than what you would normally might have done, because you're obviously a very clever guy, and you probably would have went on to university education and become pigeonholed in a specific role, function, skill, career, whatever.
In the machine.
Well, yeah, that's what university does. That's why they call it university, universe, one way, one verse.
Very good,
Just think inside the box, that's it. But people have said to me, Max, you're very well educated. How did you find out all this stuff? Where did you go to school? I say, well, I didn't go to school. They didn't get hold of me. That's how come I know so much.
Yeah, exactly. You stayed open to life and its experiences.
So, I mean, as you know yourself, that the brain is constantly growing itself. You know, the synapses, they form, other connections with other synapses in the brain, and that what you learn becomes you. That your brain is basically a computer hard drive, and that it's like a magnetic disk hard drive, and that, you learn something and it gets stuck there, and it doesn't really, get taken out again unless you relearn what you've already learned. So you don't have to do that. You're starting with a fresh disk,
Well, yeah, I think you should do that. I think that every time you come across some form of research, you need to, not go down the rabbit hole it's providing, but to step back and see where this research fits on the global stage.
Yeah.
Try to put it all together. Always try to keep a really, really broad perspective of everything that you're hearing and everything that you're seeing, because there's so many rabbit holes, and people go down these rabbit holes because they want someone to point the finger at.
That's the problem. That's the problem. You have to keep yourself grounded, don't you?
Yeah, they're not stepping back and looking at the whole thing. Okay, well, what we're basically seeing all around the world in all of our countries is a corporate consolidation is what we're seeing. They're just consolidating their resources, and the corporations becoming more and more visible, more and more in your face. And then you've got to think, okay, well, where's it going? Where's it leading? And how do we prevent it from going in the direction that it's going? And really the way we prevent it is through common unity, through connecting with our neighbourhood and connecting with the people. We're only going to do that if we respect others. So stop going and arguing with people and screaming fear and all this sort of stuff. You just connect with them. Break that barrier, break that ice.
Exactly, but it's to try
get to know them. Because they're just like you.
Yeah.
And they're all divided from each other because they've been trained to be that way. So you've got to really look at things you've got to change your perspective. Change your perspective of how the world works. Because when you can see that everybody around you is exactly the same as yourself in Lakesh, then you can see how to get through to them, and you can see how to break down these barriers, and you can see what would happen if we did break down these barriers.
Yeah.
We'd change the world in 3 seconds,
Exactly.
It really is so simple, but people just can't seem to see it.
I've been trying to live this ideology for the last 15 years, and people seem to just trot on me, like people just brush it off and go, oh, you're nuts, what are you on about? But now slowly people are coming to the realization, but not everybody. Like how do you get everybody to just realize the life that's around them and what they actually have and where they are? And that
you lead by example.
Irrelevant. Yeah, exactly. Very good point.
You've got to do that. You've got to be like I'm really happy and pleasured that I know the stuff that I know, that I can see how the world works, because now I can see the solution. And to me, it's so simple. The solution is so simple. And people go, oh, you're like, John Lennon saying you can fix the world with love. Well, in a way you can. And I'm not saying about how we all get in a state and meditate. It's when we suddenly see each other as valid. Stop seeing the people around you as a threat to your little box view of reality. And most people have these little box views. They only see reality from their perspective, which is natural. Of course you only see it from your perspective, but we don't perceive other people's perspectives to be valid.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone wants to go out and be the voice in the crowd. I want you to listen to me when I'm talking, but I'm not prepared to listen to you when you're talking. And everybody thinks that way. So nothing ever gets communicated.
That's why we
everyone's
have
in their own little box,
Yeah,
no one sees each other as valid.
Yeah, that's why we have 2 ears, isn't it, and 1 mouth, that we should actually listen to more than what we actually say.
Yeah, well, that absolutely makes sense. Someone's always got a gift for you if you're prepared to listen to them. They've always got a perspective that you need that will help you if you can only give that perspective the validation that it needs.
Everybody has got a piece of genius in them.
Oh, absolutely.
I learned that I
Everybody
worked with special needs people for 5 years, and I really realized everybody's got genius in them. You just have to look for it. And when you look for it, you'll actually find it. And
it's there.
It's
It's absolutely there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's sorry, when I'm talking, you're sort of cutting out a little bit, so it's hard to hear sometimes when you've stopped. So
sorry about that, Max.
If I've been talking over you sometimes, it's because I think that you've stopped.
No problem. You're fine. You're fine.
Everybody does have a piece of genius in them. And the thing is that everybody has within them the spark, the essence of life, the sentience that gives them animation, that makes them able to walk and talk and see and hear, the consciousness that exists within them. And that's exactly the same as the spark in you. It's exactly the same spark that comes from exactly the same source. So they are just as valid as you. And when we can see this, and we can see that the world could be completely different if we were not so divided from each other, well, there's the solution. You know, see, everything about this society, everything about the grading system, even cutting people off as families and keeping them in these little boxes with fences around them. You know, so this family doesn't mingle with that family. You know, there's no community in it. There's none of this common unity among the people anymore that there always used to be. Things like the Anastasia books, if you look at how society existed in Vedic times, these wonderful, thriving communities of people that all had their own space for their own life and their own village with the partner of their choice for life, but all work together as this wonderful, interactive community. That's how humanity used to be. So how do we come up with this? Now, someone injected fear into the situation. They injected scarcity into the situation. And they injected division into the situation.
Sounds like work of the psychopath.
Well, it is. That's the thing. We've got psychopaths who have climbed to the top of our society because this is what psychopaths do. Psychopaths like to control others.
Well, we had a guy called Thomas Sheridan on the show last week who's written 2 books, A Labyrinth of a Psychopath and Defeated Demons. Have you heard of Thomas Sheridan?
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah,
sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's written 2 books about it. He originally said that he wanted to write some sort of a horror fiction novel about people that he experienced when he was working over in America. He was a graphic artist, and he was working at Lehman Brothers.
He worked for Lehman Brothers and Goldman Sachs also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he came across like a guy who actually admitted he was a clinical psychopath. He actually did a test on him. You know?
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. So you've got these people and they've maneuvered themselves into positions of control all throughout our society, throughout our governments. I mean, look at politicians. They climb over themselves to get the gig.
Absolutely.
Elect me.
Yeah.
I want to be the top dog.
Yeah.
Why? Would you want the gig? Do you want to control everybody else? I couldn't stand being Prime Minister. I just would not want to know about it.
Yeah.
So how can these people climb over themselves to get into a position where they're in control of other people, in control of a whole nation? Because they're psychopaths.
According to Thomas Sheridan, that they have a completely different brain structure than the average human being. You know, it's very, very different. It's the reptilian brain, which is the most ancient part of the mind, and that's what's activated an awful lot of the time is the fight or flight syndrome, and that's where they're based. Most of their life experience comes from the reptilian part of the brain, not the prefrontal cortex and other parts of the brain that are more modern in human evolution, and that they're predators. And that they don't have any empathy. It doesn't exist. And that all they want to do is to find someone that they can prey on. And I can tell you one thing, I've met quite a few of these people in my years.
Oh, look, they're everywhere. These are usually the people who are in control of large corporations and in control of countries, in control of governments, you know, because that's just where they want to be. Psychopaths will always maneuver themselves into a position where they control others because that's how they get their energy. That's where they get it from. They harvest the energy of others. You know, it exists
they're
on
energy
all sorts
vampires.
of levels of the psyche, you know.
Yeah.
And what you find is that when you have psychopaths who are in control of countries and in control of large corporations, then their morality or lack of morality becomes the morality of the organization or becomes the morality of the country. So you have people who aren't psychopaths who have to work within this psychopathic structure, which sort of activates this sociopathic nature within people. It turns all of society into basically a sociopathic culture. So you've got situations where you've got a police officer coming and throwing you out of your house saying he feels terrible about doing it, but he has no choice because it says on this piece of paper that he has to throw you out.
Yeah.
And you're going to go and freeze to death, and I'm so sorry about that, but I feel terrible about it, but I don't have a choice. Well, that's pathological thinking.
Yeah.
Because the rules that he's forced to obey affect his mind like a pathogen because he does not know that he's operating within a psychopathic system. a system that's been created by psychopaths. See, the only way to free yourself of this pathological thinking is to realize that this is a psychopathic system created by psychopaths that's training you to think pathologically. That way you can free yourself from it. You think, well, hang on, I've got to throw you out of your house. Well, instead of doing that, I should go and find who wrote this law and go up the food chain and eliminate these people from any system of power. Yeah. Because this series of laws and series of rules have made humanity expendable in order to serve the system. So therefore the system is flawed. But they don't think like that because they're not aware of this pathological thinking that's been ingrained into them. You see what I'm saying?
Paul, how many laws were passed into, how many statutes were passed into law in Ireland there the last year?
Last year, I think 728 new legislation, new acts of legislation.
I mean, mostly from Europe, Max.
Yeah. Well, see, it's all becoming the one thing. See, when you get pieces of legislation passed in one country, they go, aha, that's how it works. Now we'll extrapolate it out. So they tried it in all countries. Yeah. Every country is a testing ground for new legislation until they find what works, and they import it into your country. We've had so many laws. I don't even know how many Julia Gillard has brought in. But in the time that she has been Prime Minister of Australia, we've had more legislation brought in than any other Prime Minister has brought in.
Wow.
So, and she's the highest paid world leader now. She gets $450,000 a year. She pays herself. That's more than Barack Obama.
Wow.
So, it's happening in all countries across the globe. The only country I can see that's actually doing anything decent is Iceland at the moment.
Because I think it's a lot to do with the fact that they're so isolated and that they have such a small population that they could mobilise very quickly.
It's a lot easier for Iceland to do that because there's not so many people to rally, I mean,
look at the problems
that you have. It's a great example that they're setting anyway.
And look at the problems that you'd have trying to do the same thing in Australia. I mean, most of the people live on the coast in Australia. It's a massive continent. America as well, the New World. I mean, it's just huge. And there's so many people. What's the population of America now? Is it 350 million now?
Something like that, yeah.
And what's Australia? Australia is what? Is it 60 million?
Oh, no, 22 million or something like that.
Oh, is that all?
Not very many.
Wow.
We've got less people here than they have in Greater New York.
So we believe we have an opportunity. There's a window here that we can take advantage of, Max. If we can get a grassroots movement to start, really, really local, and get a sort of contagion in a positive way rather than a contagion in a negative way, which is what's happening with the EU and the EU currency. That if we get people excited about what's going on within all the different groups throughout the country, and that they have a common theme, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with the Awaken Ireland movement, is that to allow people to connect with other groups without infringing on their own viability and their own independence and their own vision, and try and connect them under a common theme and bring everyone together and just kind of agree on a certain kind of a general kind of consensus of how we'd like to see things to be done.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Be careful of infiltrators.
I've been through Occupy, I know all about that.
Absolutely.
My God.
Oh, look, I started meetings here a couple of years ago, and it was just basically me and a couple of friends sitting around talking one afternoon, and they said, wow, this was great, we should do it again. Let's have meetings every Monday night. And I said, yeah, okay. And we went to the meeting. There were 7 of us there talking. Then the next week there were 15 of us, and then the next week there were 35 of us, and then the next week there was 60. And then the next week we got up to like 82 people or something sitting around in the lounge room.
Yeah,
respect.
But, just from word of mouth. We didn't even tell anybody about it. But it was just sort of me having meetings with people and talking.
And how did that go?
Well, it went really well, and then everybody started hearing about it, and suddenly they realised that these meetings were getting all of this attention. So everybody came with their agendas, and they tried to co-opt the meeting. I kept it really open. I kept saying, look, there's no leaders here. We're just talking.
Yeah.
I really wanted to connect with people. I was having a lot of people coming and they're going, oh, it's Max. I want to go and listen to Max talk. And I'm saying, well, it's not about hearing me talk. It's about we talking together.
Together, yeah.
Talking with you. I don't want to talk at you.
Exactly.
I want to talk with you. I want to hear what your ideas are, because if you've listened to any of my stuff, any of my shows, well, you know what the issues are. And put out what I believe my solution is, which is unity, common unity, and for us to connect with each other, say, hey, that's what I'm doing. Let's hear what you have to say. And because I was running it like that, and I was being very open and very trusting with people, it got co-opted by people who had their agendas, and they divided the whole groups, and it was interesting dichotomy to see how it all went down. But so be very careful of infiltrators, and be very sure of what your objectives are, what you want to achieve with your meetings when you have them.
Well, see, it's not even about us having meetings. It's what the Awaken movement is about is to find established groups that are already out there, NGOs, non-governmental organisations that are already well established and have a structure already in place. It's just about reaching out and connecting with those already established groups. It's not about trying to set up, a whole new framework and try to reinvent the wheel. It's not about that. It's about, just trying to reach out and connect with people that already have something going on,
Well, that's a really good idea if you can get them to put down their differences between the other groups.
Yeah.
Because as I was saying in the film, in the new film Transformation, I said, our response to the problem is always compartmentalised. Mm-hmm. Because we believe we have to operate within these parameters. Okay, we've got to form this little group to deal with this problem. We've got to get registered. We've got to get incorporated. We've got to open a bank account. We've got to follow all these legal channels in order to get our point across. Yeah. No, you don't. What you have to do is realise that you're addressing this symptom, and you need to unite with other groups who are addressing other symptoms so that you can all unite together to address the actual problem.
Exactly.
Because the problem is the system itself. It's not the symptom that you're working on, and you don't need to work within legal parameters that only exist on paper. What you need to do is do what is lawful. And in order to do that, you need to have strong community. That's something that we don't have because we are all forming these little groups that are all addressing symptoms. Mm-hmm. And they're all very important symptoms. And these people are doing a good job, but they're just approaching things from the wrong perspective.
Yeah.
And they're taught that, and they get very defensive about it. Once they start getting somewhere with their little group, and they're the leader of that group, their kind of ego takes over a little bit, and they start seeing other groups as a threat. Oh no, you're taking it away from my issue. My issue is more important than your issue, and it all becomes this sort of, divided dichotomy again. And what people don't realise is that your issue and my issue are related. They are symptoms of the one problem.
Exactly.
Which is the system that allows these symptoms to exist.
Nicely put. Nicely put. We do recognise that, the immediate problems that we need to sort out is really economics. And if we have a guy here in Ireland, Cathal Spellman, someone that's part of the Awaken movement, and he does a talk on a system called social credits, and it's something that you could implement very, very quickly. And the idea of that is to you have a national office that helps to filter a dual currency into the country so that you don't have to go about restructuring the whole international currency that you use. We use the EU currency, the euro here, and that can still happen. They can still be used, and they can be used so that all of the corporations that work here and that do business here can still trade with other countries and move their goods about. The social credits then can be issued from the central office, and it's a dividend based on the back of all of the work from all of the people that came before. Because Max, all we're doing is standing on the shoulders of giants, really, from all of the work that all of our ancestors, our families that came before us, our grandfathers and their grandfathers before them, all the work that they've already done. We should be benefiting from that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a system called mathematically perfected economy. You've probably heard Mike Montagna talk on TNS
Yes,
radio.
Mike, it's very similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine. I mean, that's a great system. It really is. And they're actually working on a mandate to get that.
Do you understand that? Because I'd like an explanation of that, a simple explanation of that, if you can give it to us, what your understanding of that is.
It's difficult to get your head around.
It is.
Mike's a very, very intelligent man, but it's been very difficult for me to get my head around it. But I've actually been talking to some people, a lady called Susan and a couple of other people, and where they're sending me some documentation. So I'll wait till I can get my head around it a bit more in order to tell you. But when Mike explained it to me a couple of years ago, it all made sense. But it's been a couple of years since I've looked at it because I've been so busy. Mm-hmm. I've just been waiting for the mandate, because hopefully what's being produced is a mandate that will explain it clearly so everybody can understand it, and simply mandate that our governments implement this type of economy.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a democratic system, again, well, they've got to respect the people's mandate. Otherwise, it's not a democracy. So what is it? Oh, it must be a fascist state, which means that they've openly declared themselves, because they can't disobey people's mandate. It's simple. It's a democratic system. So if we, the people, hereby mandate that you, our public servants, do the following, they have no option but to comply.
Can I ask you, is there direct democracy as part of the Australian Constitution?
Direct democracy?
Yeah, have you got that as part of the Constitution? Can you, if enough of you decide in Australia that you're not happy with the legislation that's been passed into government, recent legislation, that if you get enough signatures together that you can overrule the legislation?
Well, the thing is that most of the laws are invalid, because most of the laws are state laws that are contrary to the Constitution. And it says in the Constitution that any law that is not consistent with the Constitution is void. But people don't realise that. We're not taught the Constitution in schools. A lot of people don't even know that Australia's got a Constitution.
Sure.
A lot of Australian people. They don't even know it exists because it's not taught in schools. I mean, I know it exists, and a lot of people that I know it exists. But basically, Section 109 of our Constitution says that any state law or any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is invalid to the point of that inconsistency. So, if it is inconsistent, then the Constitution prevails, But the states just overwrite this because of a thing called the Australia Act that came in 1986. And they believe that they can use the Australia Act to do that, and they always bring it up, yes, according to the Australia Act, blah, blah, blah. But the Australia Act itself says in one section that the Constitution is not affected. And that's it. So most of it's void. Most of our state legislation is void, according to our Constitution, but people just don't know it, and so they don't enforce it. That's the thing. And you can't change one word of the Constitution without a referendum. They keep having them. They have them every few years to see if we will please change our Constitution, and everybody always votes no. So, but then they don't enforce it, because they just, it's interesting. That's the Australian mentality, like they can, people don't even know we've got a Constitution, and yet you can offer them a referendum to ask if we would submit to changes in our Constitution, and they'll vote no. Then they don't use the thing. They don't enforce it. They don't ever stand in the power that it provides for them.
But it's not their fault, Max, because that education was not offered up to them when they were in the schooling system. You see, I don't look at it as, I'm not saying that you're saying it's their fault, but the reality is it's not your fault if you're never educated in that reality, in that paradigm,
Oh yeah, I know that, but the thing is, you've got people here who don't know that we have a Constitution.
Yeah. And
yet when the government offers them a referendum asking them if they will submit to change to the Constitution, they'll vote no. They'll vote no on this document that tells them they've got a Constitution, and will they allow it to be changed? They'll go, no, we don't want it changed. Then you can go and ask them a week later, do we have a Constitution? They'll go, no, I don't think so.
Fantastic.
It's the fluoride. It's the fluoride and the televisions and the alpha waves. And I love these people.
Is the water fluoridated in Australia?
There are very, very short-term memories going on here, you know what I mean?
Is it fluoridated, the water in Australia?
Yeah, mostly. I think the only shire that it isn't fluoridated in Australia is the shire in which I live.
Shire. Very interesting that you say shire.
Shire Reef? A sheriff?
Shire Reef.
Yeah. Well,
I'd say you've had some fun with that guy over the years, have you?
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of talks with the local council. We haven't let them fluoridate this area. So.
Nice one. You blocked them, did you?
Yeah, but there's still they're bringing it in most of the rest of the country. I mean, they're getting through Queensland now. They've done most of Queensland.
They're only starting to bring it in now, Max.
Well, it's been in the major capital cities for a long time, but it hasn't been in some of the regional districts.
Wow.
And so they're bringing it in all the regional districts, but there's in massive amounts of chlorine and stuff in the regional districts anyway. So.
Do you know that Ireland is the only EU country that does have fluoridation of the water, and we're now fighting to get rid of it?
Yeah, well, the Irish people are very active, so they're probably trying to...
they're not as active as the Dutch or the French or the Germans, though, who've had it out for years. We're the only EU country left with fluoridation of the water.
The Dutch, Max, they were so strong about getting it out that they actually changed their constitution to make sure it could never happen again.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. And it's not only that, it's going down through the river systems and, through all the sewage, and it's getting into the oceans. It's fluoridating all the fish. I mean,
Exactly. It
pumping massive amounts of this stuff into the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And the only answer is to educate the masses in any way that we can, and that there isn't any other solution to it. And the only way that can happen really is if it gets into the standard education system, that and that becomes part of our history. That this is actually what happened before the empire fell. Look at what they did. What lessons have we learned from the system that was in place? And hopefully, I will live to see that day, that my grandchildren might actually learn about the craziness of this current regime.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this starts with the teachers. I mean, the teachers have got to realise that they're operating within a pathological system as well. Because I was actually sitting next to a teacher on the plane. I went down to Adelaide last week and came back, and I was sitting next to a young teacher on the plane. And she was telling me she was amazed at what she actually has to teach these children, and how none of it is designed to help the children think and prepare them for the outside world. It's all just designed to keep them on this one path, and how all the test results are changing and all this sort of stuff. I said, yeah, well, it's up to you to change that. It's up to you to question that. And the way you can do that is by uniting with the teachers within your school, talking to the older teachers. Yeah. Some of these old teachers that have been there for years, that saw the way the system did work and the way it's working now, and you have to change it from within the system. And it doesn't matter if the government gives you this particular dictate and tells you have to operate in this certain way. If this way is detrimental to the kids, then you as a teacher have a moral obligation to do the opposite. And not only that, you need to question the government. And then you need to connect with other schools, and you need to create a teacher's front where you can deal with this situation, because we need you people to start teaching these kids what reality is. And she totally agreed with what I was saying, gave her a copy of the new film.
Brilliant. Well, let me tell you what's been happening here in Kerry. That Aisling and Martha, part of the Awaken Ireland movement, that Martha is Aisling's mother, and Martha is a school teacher, and she got the backing of the principal and brought all the students together, educated them about hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a waste product from the agricultural industry, the
aluminium industry,
the pharmaceutical, the phosphate industry, and all that sort of stuff, and educated them about the poison that it is, and they actually wrote a song about it. And they ended up going up to the Dáil in a minibus and presenting the Dáil, which is
the Dáil is our version of Irish, is at the Irish Parliament, basically.
The Irish Parliament, yeah, and presented the information in a booklet about the fact that it is a highly toxic neurotoxin, and delivered the information to some of the TDs. TDs is an MPs, an Irish version. Chuck Dáil is the Irish version of the MPs, and they were kind of shocked, didn't know how to cope with the information, pretty much ignored it. And what they were told was that the only way that you're going to get the fluoride out of the water is if you bring a lawsuit against the state, and that's actually what's happening right now, and that's being confirmed that we do have a team, a council. We have a senior counsel, and we have a solicitor that's interested in getting involved and actually bringing the Irish state to court in relation to getting the fluoride out of the water. So that is exactly what we've just been talking about. To use the system, it's already there in place to empower people on a local level, get the community involved, Max, and get it into the schools, get the ID into the schools of the reality of these poisons and these different ways of indoctrinating people with information.
Absolutely. That's great that you're doing all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I said the Irish are very active. I mean, as far as the Freeman movements and the sovereignty movement and all this sort of stuff goes, I mean, Ireland is doing massive leaps and bounds in all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, that'll be why your government is throwing all this stuff at you, because you guys are very active over there. It's really good to see.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying our best, and we're going to keep at it. I suppose once you shine the light of awareness on the problems, then you can actually find solutions. And for many years, the Irish people, they've just been bombarded with problems and shell-shocked, really, to be honest with you. And we have a history of rebellion, as you know, and that every generation, for hundreds of years, Ireland has always rebelled. And that hasn't happened since fluoridation in the 60s. And no one has known why. And we've become a very docile nation, and the Greeks actually were walking around with placards saying, "We're not the Irish, we're not going to lie down and take it." But it's starting to change.
There you go. They're giving you a bit of a nudge there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Max, may I change the subject slightly and ask about Fukushima? I can't even pronounce it properly. I think it's Fukushima in Japan. Fukushima, yeah. We have had a media blackout here. Since April, May last year, basically, we have heard nothing about how do you pronounce it? Fukushima. We've heard nothing about it.
Fukushima is still melting down. There's 3 reactors in a state of meltdown. It's still pouring toxic waste into the ocean. It's still pouring toxic waste into the air. Fukushima will contaminate Japan to the point where, I mean, Japan's gone. It's over for Japan as an economic power. Japan's gone. I mean, even here in the shops, all Japanese vegetables have disappeared out of our shops. Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously, a Japanese vegetable doesn't come with a sign saying maybe radioactive.
Yeah.
Car parts, Japanese cars, all this sort of stuff, Japanese sound equipment, stereos, all these sorts of things. No one's buying it because it may be radioactive.
Are you getting a lot of media news in Australia about the incident?
Absolutely none.
The situation?
Absolutely none.
It's the same here in Europe. There's just
you've got
no
to
information.
Look online. You've got to go and search Japanese sites. I've got friends that send me information as well.
Yeah.
Fortunately, a lot of listeners from my show send me lots of news clippings from their local areas. And that keeps me really updated on what's going on around the world.
I would really appreciate it if you would pass those on to us, because I'm also very interested in this. I've noticed that we've got the Irish, some Irish Association for Radiology. They're responsible for the, the measurements of radiation, contamination in the atmosphere, in the soil, and everything. And I noticed that last year on the 12th of April, after the levels were continuously climbing, that they were taken off the net. The online data was taken off the net deliberately. And I cannot find any information at the moment on radiation levels in Ireland. There are none to be had. Now, I've been looking at some shocking YouTube reports, actually, and I don't know whether to believe it's all fear-based, actually. You know, we are being slowly poisoned, that it's part of Agenda 21, blah, blah, blah. What's your opinion on this?
Look, I don't think it was an accident. I really don't think Fukushima was an accident. You don't put all those reactors there on
a fault line,
junction of 4 tectonic plates.
Yeah.
It wasn't an accident. It was an accident waiting to happen. I mean, it wasn't a matter of if; it was a matter of when.
Yeah.
And it's still going. I mean, when you look at Chernobyl, they still talk about how bad Chernobyl was. Well, Fukushima is 10 times worse than Chernobyl, and it's still going. It's completely
still
uncontained.
going. That's the thing. Yeah.
It's still pouring nuclear waste into the ocean every minute of every day, and it's pouring it into the air every minute of every day.
I saw a report maybe 10 days ago that said in 1 week the radiation levels in the Pacific Ocean had climbed 1,000% in 1 week. Yeah. And we hear nothing about it here in Europe.
Well, I believe that it is all part of Agenda 21, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's still pouring into the ocean, and all of our governments should stop whatever it is they're doing and address this problem, because this isn't a Japanese problem; it's a global problem.
Exactly, it is a global problem.
The fact that our governments are ignoring it speaks volumes. The fact that you're not hearing anything about this on the news speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Even when they do speak about it, they talk about it as the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl.
Yeah, since.
It's not the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. It's the world's worst nuclear disaster, and it's ongoing.
Ever, yeah.
Now,
It's been going for over a year now. It was May last year.
That's right.
So it's about a year now.
11th of March last year, actually.
March, was it? Okay.
Yeah, the 11th of March. And I followed the data very closely on the Irish website, and the data was given out for 1 month. My birthday is actually in April, so I realised, hey, on the 12th of April, there's no data anymore. That's very unusual, and there hasn't been any since.
Yeah, well, it's very, very bad, and something needs to be done about it. But I mean, honestly, I don't know what can be done about it. It's almost a perfect disaster, because it's right there on the water table.
For global depopulation.
you can't pump concrete over it. It'll just sink into the water table.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't drill underneath it and contain it from underneath and stop it melting down because it's water. It's right on the coast. Why would you put this thing right on the coast, you know?
Yeah. It's a recipe for disaster, basically.
It's
absolutely a recipe for disaster.
Just to put a skeptic's hat on it there, Max, you know, there are people out there that will say, well, hold on a second, if the elites have planned this on purpose, how are they going to protect themselves from a nuclear fallout?
Well, it all ties in with the transhumanist thing, I think.
Are you saying that they're superhuman, that they've altered their genetics enough that it won't affect them?
Well, I mean, I can only speculate, but I mean, the fact that this thing is happening, and the fact that it was put in such a dangerous place, you've got to think this was done on purpose. So, what can I say? I mean, it's just that it's. I mean, if you did a graph and you did a map and you got a computer and you worked out the worst place on Earth you could put a nuclear reactor, it would be Fukushima. So
yeah, it's shocking, all right,
John. Yeah.
Yeah, why is it there? Yeah, why is it there? So, and it isn't just Fukushima. I mean, there's 52 reactors in Japan. And Japan's the most tectonically active area on Earth.
That's right.
More nuclear reactors than any other country on Earth, I think. It's like, well, for the size of the country, I mean, it's only as big as California. It's got 52 nuclear reactors.
Nuts. It's pure nuts. But they don't have any natural resources.
It's a 4 tectonic plates.
Yeah. Their argument would be that, well, they are, deficient in natural resources. They have to import all of their natural resources, all of their ores and, their coal and their oil, and everything has to be imported, So that would be their reasoning for that. That's what the excuse would be.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, they're all Westinghouse and GE reactors, So they're all old Phase 1 reactors that are outdated.
Antiques, basically.
Yeah, and then you've got that whole Israeli security team that was working there just before all this happened, and I mean,
no, I haven't heard anything about this, Max.
Well, apparently there was an Israeli team there that were working on the reactor just before it happened. And then you've got to look at things like the Stuxnet virus that caused Chernobyl to melt down, which was an Israeli-based virus. You've got to look at what is Israel. I mean, this is nothing anti-Semitic, but what is Israel? Israel is basically an operating platform run by the Rothschilds. That's all Israel is. It's a weapons lab run by the Rothschilds that's designed to create instability in the Middle East and use the Jewish people as the scapegoats for it. It's just why everyone hates the Jews. When it's not the Jews. It's this whole Zionist sort of system that's run through Israel, which is, of course, an offshoot of the whole Vatican Empire. And I mean, we could go on about this. This is a whole other show.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, I mean, that's you've got to, everywhere you see some major disaster around the planet, you can usually find Mossad fingerprints on it somewhere, And people blame Jews, but it's the Mossad. They're just, they're like the terrorist wing of the New World Order. They go out and create all this stuff everywhere. But it's all basically run by the same system. That's just one wing of it,
They're the contractors.
So, I mean, the whole thing is doing something, but it's causing a huge global problem. Whether it's what the ultimate purpose could be. Well, radioactivity. I mean, it's got to maybe this will do something with what we're finding in the chemtrails. Maybe it's all part of this whole nanotechnology thing. Maybe they know where the prevailing things are going to go. Maybe they know what areas it's going to infect. Maybe they have a way of shutting it down that we're not aware of. Maybe they have technology that we don't even know exists.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can do is speculate on all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
sure.
But when I look at it, it seems too ridiculous to have ever put a nuclear reactor there. And now that it is melting down, the fact that they're just letting it go and no one's even talking about it, it's like people have forgotten about this
Exactly.
thing.
That's what really bothers me, Max. That
well,
nobody is talking about this.
There's got to be a purpose in this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just acting like it's business as usual. Oh, go shopping, do this, do that. We're worried about global warming. We're worried about all this sort of stuff. Well, what about Fukushima?
Yeah. Stick to your daily routine. Everything is okay, Don't worry about Fukushima. Yeah, we have it under control, but it's far from under control.
buy Coke.
Absolutely. So there's got to be some purpose to this. There's the fact of how it's all gone down and how it's being ignored. There's got to be a purpose to it because it's too important for. I mean, it's the fuss they made over Chernobyl, and this is 10 times Chernobyl, and they're not even mentioning it. So what's going on? Why is it business as usual? What is the real purpose?
Exactly. Well, I'm adding 1 and 1 together, and like yourself, I'm, getting 2. That's
I mean,
what
so
it looks like.
I just
exactly
think,
what you're saying.
This transhumanist thing, it's got to be to do with this transhumanist thing because that would kind of make sense. Well, everything's electromagnetic. I mean, maybe it's a mutation. I mean, I don't know.
Morphous into some sort of yeah. I don't even want to speculate on it. Sounds crazy.
So Max, what's your solution, Max, for your blueprint for a solution? Then it's community based with you, isn't it?
It is. To me, that is our only solution. For people to become aware that there's a problem, and if they, to become aware that there's a problem, if you're going to tell them what the problem is, you've got to provide them with the solution and leading by example. You've got to lead by example. You've got to have this community. You've got to talk to people, give out information to people, be friendly, be positive, be empowering, be a pleasure to be around because you have this information and you make people want to be near you.
Yeah.
Because, wow, this guy's always so positive and always so happy. He's always so helpful. Yeah. How come my life's so messed up and this guy's got virtually nothing, but he's a really happy guy? Mm-hmm. It's because he has a different perspective of reality than me. Well, what's his perspective?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the way I do it, and it's worked wonders with me.
What's happening over there? What's happening down under? Is there many groups popping up all over Australia, or what's happening?
Well, there is. I mean, more people in the street are becoming more aware. I give out a lot of information to people. There's a couple of shops in town that have got flyers and give out information to people as well. Give out DVDs to lots of people, and people are becoming aware of it. There's lots of anti-fracking groups. We're making a huge lot of progress with the fracking movement against CSG. I said a few months ago or a year ago even that coal seam gas was going to be an issue that will unite the community because everybody needs water. I think they're doing it in Ireland as well. They're doing it in England. They're doing it everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. You're big into fracking, aren't you, actually?
Yeah, fracking. So this is something that can unite the community. And once you start going to some of these fracking meetings and you start talking to them from a perspective of constitutional law and trust law and stuff like this, and start bringing empowering information to them, how to deal with the legal system in a way that actually works by basically circumventing it and putting it all back into natural law. Things like this. Yeah. Always being a human or a man, being flesh and blood. And when you're talking to anyone of authority, talking to the man within the uniform, not the uniform, and always treating people as equals, being respectful, but treating the person you're talking to as another man, another human being, like another. He's not anything special than you. He's just got an outfit on, Yeah. And getting people to approach things from this way and from a state of natural law, that's been having a huge effect. Because once people start realising this through the medium of coal seam gas, which is what's been used to unify the community, then you can start getting all of this different legal perspective into their minds and this different perspective of reality into their minds. And it starts changing from there. And so I think coal seam gas is the catalyst, and I think that that's something that can unite all groups. All of these, the whaling group and the oil group and the homeless group and the starving children group and all these things. If people can realise that, look, they're destroying our water now, so this is a serious issue. And if we can unite on this, then we can incorporate all of the other symptoms into this one issue, which is the corruption of government itself.
Exactly.
It only stays to be corrupt. It only exists because we fail to address the very root core of the problem, which is that corruption. That's what we have to do. Yeah,
and that's actually a very important topic here in Ireland at the moment, is actually fracking, because we have something like, is it 5 billion, James?
5 trillion.
5 trillion.
Worth of just gas alone. That's what's come out off the coast of Ireland, and there's oil there as well. That the IMF are in if they bankrupt the country, and that they're trying to take control of all the natural resources here, so that they can make profit on it.
Well, yeah, and it's destroying groundwater. That's what it's all about. That's all Agenda 21 again, because we don't need this gas.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I showed in my film that you can get energy from carbon from a film you put on your window.
Yeah. That's right. That was on TED recently.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need all of these resources we're dragging out of the earth in order to support our energy needs. We just need to free up some of this free energy technology that exists right now.
That's what Paul Byrne actually said. That's what Paul Byrne said from Awaken Ireland. You know, we've got like 5 trillion gas and oil reserves off the coast, but we don't even need to touch them. We have other options. We don't even need to go near that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have many, many other options. And the fact that they're doing this to supposedly support our energy needs, again, you've got to step back, put it on the global stage. Well, what's it really doing? Because we don't need this to support our energy needs. And they know we don't need this to support our energy needs. So what else do you get from fracking? Well, the one result you can be guaranteed of getting is the destruction of groundwater.
Exactly.
That's why they are fracking. It's to destroy groundwater. It's not to harvest natural gas.
That's actually a topic for another evening, Max. We could spend another 2 hours talking about fracking in Australia and here and the realities of it.
Well, absolutely. But it all fits in with the same thing. It all fits in with Agenda 21, transhumanism, pushing people into major concentrated cities, getting them out of regional areas because there'll be no groundwater.
Smart zones.
Yeah, putting them all into zones. It's all part of Agenda 21, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so look at this and look at Fukushima and look what's going on. You're seeing the genetic modification of all life on Earth. It's being turned into something else. You know, and it's happening right in front of our faces. All the GM food, all the vaccinations, all the things that are in the chemtrails, Fukushima, the electromagnetic grid that's being set up around the place with all the digital televisions and smart meters and satellite grids and all this sort of stuff. All this is being done for a reason, and it's not what they're telling us. And if you step back and look at it, what you see is transhumanism. What you see is the genetic modification, the transmutation of all life on this planet. That's what's happening.
Absolutely.
And that's just by having a look at the whole thing. When you look at it holistically, that's what you see.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, well, hey, someone please tell me that I'm wrong. Show me that I'm wrong. But this is what I see when I look at it all. It seems to be right there. And not only that, they tell you that's what they're doing through the subtext in all of their films and television and everything. It's all pointing to this one thing.
To be honest, that's the conclusion I come to too when I observe and when I'm honest with myself. But I believe we actually still can have the possibility to change things, and it would be great to have you on future programs if you're interested, just to keep us updated on what's going on around the world. There's so many topics we can discuss. Not a problem. I'd be happy to come on any time you want me to come on. Yeah.
And look, we can fix this because now it's becoming so in your face that people can be aware of it, and you can't fix it until you're aware of it. So that's what I've tried to say to people was, well, look, here it all is, and here's the opportunity we now have to step into who and what we are.
Exactly.
Because here's what's going to happen if we don't. You know, so we don't want that. You know, we want to have the opportunity to be all that we can be.
Exactly.
So, you know, let's step into this and fix this situation.
Absolutely, Max. We just have to keep the good side out, as they say, and just focus on what's positive and what's solutions based. I think if you build up enough energy around the idea of solutions rather than just talking about the problems, you can't ignore the problems. You have to be aware of them, but you also need to focus on what are the solutions. How can you implement solutions? And again, it all comes back down to local community.
Well, it does, because you need the strength of numbers. You know, one person can have it. You can put in a commercial lien. You can do whatever. You know, I mean, you can go through all these avenues that they provide for you to do, or you can simply have strong community that's strong enough and empowered enough to stand up and say, "Hey, we're taking the world in a different direction now."
Absolutely. Well, John Perkins, you're probably aware of John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Have you come across him in your studies? You have. Well, I was talking to John there recently. He's actually doing an event here on the 27th of May. He's coming over, and there's also Max Kaiser. We found out today Max Kaiser is going to come over as well. He's going to be discussing economic fallout around the world and what's really going on behind the scenes. Stacey Herbert as well. His sidekick, his partner on the Russia Today show, the Kaiser Report, and that's a good event happening on the 27th of May this year in Ireland, and that they feel they think, these people think that Ireland can be, the centre of change because of the small population, because of the history and heritage of the Irish people, that we can together come together and make a good focused change and do it from a grassroots level, push up through and get enough people involved, enough people awakened to bring about real change,
Absolutely. The Irish, as I said, are leading the way. They just have to remember who and what they are, and they're a proud people and a proud race, and they've always led the way in these sorts of things. And I think that's what the Greek are saying. We're not rolling over like the Irish.
Yeah.
Because they're giving you a nudge. They're saying, hey, come on, you guys always led the way. What are you doing? We're here, we're in to bat for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're giving you a bit of a shove. So, I think you can do it, and I hope that you do. You could be the force that changes Europe.
We're very excited about what's been going on, and we had a Bog Hill event. A Bog Hill is in Clare. It's a kind of a holistic place there in the wilds of Clare in West Ireland, and 40 people met up there from all over the country, all different ages, and we had great help there with a professional facilitator, Chris, who allowed the information to flow without egos getting involved and influencing the circle of communication that was going on over the weekend. And from that, the Awaken Ireland Movement was born, and it's just growing from strength to strength. We started the show on the back of it. There's a meeting tomorrow that Paul and Sean maybe as well are heading down to, and it's just a top up on the energies that have already been created around the Awaken Ireland Movement, and we'll keep you posted, Max, on how that develops,
Oh, good.
Paul, have you got anything else you want to ask Max before we sign off?
I've just sat down again. Sorry, you caught me off guard, James. Not at the moment, but I'm sure I'll have a lot of things I want to ask you in a couple of minutes when you're not there anymore.
Is there anything else you want to highlight, Max, before we sign off?
No, I'm pretty good. Just send people to thecrowhouse.com. That's my website. All the stuff that I do is there. All the radio shows are there. All my films are there. It's all there. It's all free. Mm-hmm. So go and check that out when you get a chance.
It's www.crowhouse.com, as far as I know.
Oh, it's just thecrowhouse.com.
Sorry, thecrowhouse.com.
Mm-hmm.
The Crowhouse. If you go there and click on links and articles, you'll probably find a little bit of information about Fukushima there as well. You can catch up on.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, Max, we're going to leave you go because I'm sure you're a very busy guy and you've got your own show to get prepare for, And it's been great having you on the show. So from myself, James, and
Paul here, thanks very much, Max.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Hope we didn't disturb your break that you've been having, your well-deserved break.
Oh, that's all right. Every time I have a break, it's usually because I've got so much other stuff I need to catch up on, so it's never really a break anyway.
Okay,
so.
Well, listen, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us, and it was really great listening to you, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Not a problem. My pleasure, guys.
Hey, great stuff.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Good night.
And that was Max Igan talking all the way from Australia. Thecrowhouse.com is his website. And it was great to have him on. We weren't expecting to have him on the show tonight. But brilliant, absolutely wonderful. And as he said, he's willing to come back on again in the future and to discuss other elements of what's going on in his world and in our world. And it's great to have that connection now with Ireland and with Down Under. And we'll get him on as regularly as needs be.
And thanks again to Murphy O, our researcher, who organised that at very, very short notice.
We had Treacy O'Connor in earlier on today, and Treacy was talking about all of the different things going on all around the country. And in relation to Awaken Ireland, Treacy is PR for the Awaken Ireland Movement. And Treacy is going to give you a quick update on everything that was going on. She was at Ishnok as well, and was one of the people that actually lit the fire, believe it or not. And with Dara as well, and Dara is one of the Awaken Ireland people based in Wicklow. So you're going to hear from Treacy now. Well, on the phone we have Treacy O'Connor, and Treacy is PR for the Awaken Ireland Movement, and has been at the Ishnok Festival over the weekend and has some great news and updates for us. Treacy, very welcome to the show.
Thanks, James. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I heard you had a great time there at Ishnok at the weekend.
Yeah, Ishnok was amazing. It was the Festival of Fires yesterday, and I don't know if a lot of people know about Ishnok, but basically it was the seat of the High Kings before Tara, so it goes back a long, long way. And apparently the goddess Iru was buried there under the Catstone. We don't know if that's quite true or not, but legend has it anyway. And Iru is where Ireland gets its name from. So it was very significant that they light this massive fire on the top of the hill, which they used to do a long time ago.
And come here, tell me, didn't you actually have something to do with the lighting of the fire this year?
Well, it just so happened that I was there and I was asked to participate and be one of the fire starters, which was so interesting. So I said, yeah, no problem, I'll do that. And Dara Kenny, who's also part of Awaken Ireland, also came along with me. So there was 7 of us all together, and 2 of us were participating already in Awaken Ireland. So it was so significant. The fact that we're lighting the fire of Ireland, and as I said, we all set an intention before we actually lit the fire that we would ignite and reignite the fire in the heart of Ireland and the heart of the people of Ireland, which was so powerful.
Well, that's fantastic, because we only got news there tonight that Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert of the Kaiser Report on Russia Today, cable TV, news network, they have confirmed that they're going to be at the gig there on the 27th of this month in the Stillorgan Park Hotel, the Financial Terrorism Expo.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's all really coming together. There's no doubt about it. Ever since the Bog Hill, since we all got together initially for Awaken Ireland, everything has just spiralled in the right direction. Everything's all coming together. Yeah. I have to say, from the beginning when we met in March for Awaken Ireland, the energy that was in the Bog Hill Centre in Clare when the 40 of us got together was so strong and positive. And it's really carried through all the way, and it's just getting better and better. So it's time, definitely, for an update on all the different initiatives that have been going on, because there's just so much happening right now, So thanks for the opportunity. I think it's a great idea to do it over the radio.
Absolutely, Tracy. People get to hear your voice and to be able to recognise you then in future updates, because we'll have you regularly on the show, because there's so much happening week by week that we do need regular updates so everyone can know what's happening,
Yeah, exactly, and it's much easier for people to listen to. So yeah, that's cool, and well done to yourself and Paul as well for doing the show, because it's great. It's a really easy way to get information out to people. So
thank you.
Without further ado, I'll get on to the update.
Okay.
First of all, Steve Kerr, who's based in Castlebar in Mayo, has done a fantastic job at getting a temporary website together. It's awakenmovementireland.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that again. It's awakenmovementireland.com. So anybody who wants any information basically on the mission statement, media information, central contact point, it's pretty basic at the moment. And again, everybody's doing this as a volunteer. So we are working on a more permanent website, but it won't just be ready for the moment. But at least it's something that people can go to for updates as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's kind of up and running. We have been working off-site, I suppose. Everybody's been connecting through email and so on getting the mission statement together, which I know you read out last week, so I won't do it again, but it's on the website if everybody wants to have a look through it. There has been a number of road shows throughout the country since we met at the Bog Hill, in Cork, Waterford, Wicklow, Wexford, Mayo, Kerry and Dublin. What we started off with the road shows was giving people information based on some of the solutions that came out of the Bog Hill, and in turn inviting people from local communities to come along to the events and participate as well in conversations, so that people come up with their own solutions as well. Now, they've been growing all the time. We're at a point where we need to redefine and have a look at where we're going, and that's actually happening tomorrow.
Sure.
In Cork, where a number of the original Bog Hill members are coming together again to actually have a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Also on another initiative that has stemmed out of the Bog Hill, Richard Moore has started the Positive Initiatives Group, and they met for the first time in Cove on the 21st of April.
Okay.
It's similar to the roadshows, but with a focus on more economic issues as conversation starters.
Mm-hmm.
So anything to do with
Because that's what we need
debt.
to get sorted first before anything else can be fixed, isn't that right?
Exactly. It's more what people need right now.
Yeah.
You know, there's other solutions like energy and so on, but it's more down the line. It's really to get people involved in conversations. It's what we need to do to help people now with positive solutions. So I'm sure Richard will be giving another update when we see him tomorrow. And again, there's so much going on. This will probably be a weekly thing, so we can update you on that again next week.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is that the Awaken Ireland movement seems to be expanding to link with other existing positive change networks.
Okay.
So, like, for example, with yourself, you've linked in with Kim McMenamin with Forum for Change.
In Donegal, yeah.
In Donegal, exactly. There's Ben Gilroy, who's doing great work for with Direct Democracy.
Yeah, we had him on the show last week. I couldn't get hold of him today now, unfortunately, but we'll get another update off him next week.
Okay. Great, absolutely. And it may not be every week, but it's the fact that we're linking in with existing networks already. And also, I've connected with the Local Heroes community based in Drogheda.
Okay.
The Local Heroes, if anybody hasn't heard about it before, is basically a community regeneration by the community itself.
Fantastic.
So
sounds good.
It's creating jobs and increasing local business within a community and getting everybody involved as a volunteer. I think it was RT that started it. I don't know exactly when, but they filmed the whole series of Local Heroes where all the people in Drogheda got together to make a difference and to lift the town, lift the energy, lift tourism, employment, business, etc. It was really, really successful.
Brilliant.
I'd been talking to a couple of business owners in the town last week, and they were all really positive about it. They told me that basically their Christmas sales last year were up 80%.
80%, 80%.
80.
Wow.
80.
That's amazing.
Because of the Local Heroes initiative.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting somebody from that initiative on the show. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks, you know. Definitely.
I spoke to Julianne, the project manager there, and she's all on for it. And it's funny because their kind of remit and the way they're doing things is very similar to what we're doing in Awaken Ireland. In that it's getting local communities involved and letting people decide for themselves what they want. You know, to come up with positive solutions.
Yeah.
So actually, that's been so successful. The Local Heroes that they're extending it out. They've already done it in Kells and Slane, Clonmel and Wicklow, and now they're starting in Limerick as well. So it's very, very good. So again, it's also an opportunity for us to link into existing networks that are already around the country, which will allow the movement to grow even faster.
Excellent. Anything else there, Treacy?
There's a few other things if you have time.
We do have another couple of minutes, yeah.
Okay. Street Feast is another organisation that we're linking up with. Streetfeast.ie. Street Feast is an initiative that was started about 2 or 3 years ago, again, based on local communities coming together. And it's an opportunity for people to host a feast or a picnic in their own area. Yeah. It's basically getting people talking again. You know, we've become so busy with 9 to 5. Well, a lot of people have become so busy with 9 to 5.
You don't even know their neighbours. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. How to connect. So this has become really strong. They just launched this year's initiative last week, and the Lord Mayor of Dublin agreed to host his own street feast. So if you check out their website, all the information is on the website about how you get involved, all the literature you need, all the tips and information, you know, whether it's just getting your neighbours together for a lunch, you know, on a sunny day. It's actually on the 17th of June. So it's an opportunity for people to connect up with their local communities and also to talk about Awaken Ireland. So I'm hosting one in Clontarf. So if anybody else wants to host their own in their own area, just go on to streetfeast.ie and all the information is there. Okay. Just another couple of points. Rudy from Cork has initiated the National People's Sovereignty Network, and he's campaigning for a no vote in the referendum on May 31st.
Sure.
He's organising a variety of actions like petitions and demonstrations, leaflets and information evenings and so on.
Right, that's good news, yeah.
Yeah, so he's working away on that, and in the process he's raising awareness of Awaken Ireland by linking through other existing groups as well. All right.
Good.
Another interesting initiative that I came across recently, and I know that a couple of people from Cork are involved in this, is the Clonakilty Favour Exchange. It's a skills and labour exchange system based on an economy of goodwill, which is brilliant, and the currency is the favour. So there's no money.
I love
it's open and it's voluntary,
Sounds
which is
good,
fantastic. Yeah, and they just launched on Friday. So if anybody wants to find out more, basically
I can see that already taken off, that particular one.
Can you say that again, James?
I can see that one taken off very much, you know.
Yeah, definitely, and that is a real solution.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
If the euro is to collapse or whatever, it's a solution that you don't need money for. You know, if anybody wants to find out more, the website is clonfavour.com. So that's CLONFAVOUR.com.
Excellent.
All right. And also the organisers mentioned that if anybody wants to take anything from the website, she's offered to share anything that anybody needs, just change the name to whatever local town it is. So they're working in collaboration.
Brilliant. We don't have to reinvent the wheel in every town then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's another couple of things. Basically, just to briefly mention, John Perkins, you were mentioning about that financial terrorism event on the 27th of May. John is very interested in Awaken Ireland, and he has mentioned that he'll mention it where he can. If he's doing PR interviews, it's not always possible because it's kind of driven by the interviewer.
It has to be relevant to what he's talking about as well. He can't just lob it in the middle of a conversation as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, but I've noticed that he's put it up on his website.
Great.
And also in the process of organising the PR, we've been invited by News Talk to give an interview about Awaken Ireland when we're ready.
Excellent. I propose you do that, Treacy.
Thanks, James. We'll see when the time comes. Whoever the best person is can do it.
You'll be well prepped by then.
I suppose so, but anyway, whatever's the best way of getting the information out, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Also, just on that note, I was in at Ishnok yesterday, and I was speaking with the Athlone Community Radio, and they did an interview with me about Awaken Ireland as well. It was pre-recorded, so I don't know when it's going to go out or anything, but it's all just getting information out there. It's what it's all about, you know.
Absolutely.
A couple of last things. Dara Kenny, who's based in Wicklow, has initiated Ireland's rap news. Rap as in RAP.
Look forward to that. That should be good, yeah.
Yeah, he's done a first version of it, and it's kind of nearly ready. He's going to air it on YouTube and local community stations, such as hopefully Dublin Community TV, DCTV. What he needs, though, is somebody to film it. He's kind of been left down a little bit. So if anybody out there wants to get involved, yeah, exactly, for filming, just get in contact with us.
Yeah.
Now, we do have an email address if people want to get involved. It's awakenireland@gmail.com.
Brilliant.
So if anybody, wants to send in information or anything at all, just contact us through that. Or also the website. The contact details are on the website as well.
We also have one as well, awakenirelandradio@gmail.com, so either one, you know.
Great. awakenirelandradio@gmail.com. Yeah. Perfect. Two last things.
Okay.
Two of the original Bog Hill participants, Aisling Fitzgibbon and Martha, who you know, and I know Aisling will be coming on later on. In relation to the Flouride campaign, just an update on that, Aisling has sourced a solicitor to take on the case against a case against the state for water fluoride and toxicity in the water. So it's fantastic that she's got a solicitor to do it pro bono, and there's a junior counsel as well who's given her time free of charge to do all the research that's needed. So that's really, really positive and very...
A junior counsel, yeah?
As in a barrister,
wow.
Yeah. And all of that came about through Facebook and networking.
Brilliant.
And the Ireland's Future Facebook page and Awaken Ireland and so on, and just people communicating, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's going. You know, it's all just falling into place.
It is. It
and
sure
lastly,
is.
Yeah. Lastly, I thought a really interesting update is Alan Boylan and Mark in Dublin are doing a public survey. They're working on a questionnaire to pose to the public to find out what do the Irish public really know and think. They've put a lot of work into devising questions for people, and they've gone ahead and printed them all up, and they're going out to dart stations and everything to ask people questions such as, like, you know, social and health effects of the current trends of economics, decentralised power structure, banking structures, internal government policy making, etc., etc. So it'll be interesting to see what his results are.
Great. Well, we'll have him on the show when those results are in, you know.
Good idea. Exactly.
But that's great,
so
Tracy. Thanks for the updates. You know, we'll hope to have you on the show regularly.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's going to be plenty to talk about if the speed of things that's going, the way it's going, is anything to go by, you know. So
absolutely. Yeah,
the more people talk about it, the more information is going to get out there, and it's just going to spiral in the right direction.
But that's it's the only way it's going to go, you know.
Exactly. So that's it, James.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Treacy O'Connor, who's acting as PR for the Awaken Ireland movement. She's also heavily involved in the event on the 27th of May in the Stillorgan Park Hotel. Again, I'd like to mention that we have Max Kaiser is going to be involved with that now with Stacey Herbert. Paul, what do you think about that? Are you on?
Sorry, I was off there. Sorry about that. Falling asleep here.
What do you think about that, Paul? About
fantastic.
Isn't it amazing
Max Kaiser,
news?
Yeah, here in Ireland. Yeah, it's a good start.
It is. It is. I mean, he's got a regular show. You know, he's on Russia today. How many times a week does he have a show? Is it a couple of times a week?
No idea.
It's at least once a week, if not twice a week. He has the Kaiser Report with Stacey Herbert, and he uses comedy as a way of making economics sound interesting. He's an ex-trader, and he knows all of the ins and outs of how the whole system works in relation to the trading game. And I'm looking forward to meeting the guy because we're going to be up there at the event, and I'm hoping to be able to sit down with the guy at some stage and have a good chat. Myself and John Perkins and many others, Ian Crane, and it's looking like it's heating up to be an amazing event now, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so we have one more pre-record for you. Earlier in the week, I was talking to Aisling Fitzgibbon about Flouride. Aisling is also a Bog Hill attendee, and Aisling and her mother Martha, which was mentioned in the update there from Treacy, is very heavily involved in the ousting fluoride from the water. And the good news is that they have people in the legal world who are willing, Paul, to get involved.
The dynamic duo from Tralee, County Kerry.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. These women will not stop, and they're fantastic.
They will not. Now, I will apologise in advance for the quality of this recording. We had some sort of problem with the Skype at the time. We wanted to get the information out, so just bear with it. It is a little bit distorted here and there, but just bear with the interview. And on Skype we have Aisling Fitzgibbon. Aisling is based in County Kerry, and she's involved with Awaken Kerry. Aisling, how are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. It's our third show, and you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be on.
Aisling, I met you originally there in the Bog Hill Centre for the first time, and it was just great the way we all disconnected so quickly, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I knew you for a long time. It felt like we had a good connection, you know, a lot of us in the group, and it just felt a very cohesive meeting at that weekend, and I'm very happy that the way it's kind of developing now over time, and how we started, doing the different events in the counties, and how that's going to evolve even further, during the summer and to the end of this year and beyond.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How did you find the Bog Hill experience overall?
For me, the Bog Hill experience was absolutely fantastic, just because really myself, my mum felt a bit isolated, I suppose, down here, and the Bog Hill experience gave us an opportunity to link in with like-minded people, and people who are wanting the same things, the same aspirations for Ireland, for now and for the future. So it's really uplifting to meet people who are thinking along the same lines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's really starting to develop into a strong, cohesive movement now. There's groups popping up all over the country. We have about 7 or 8 different groups at this stage, have we?
I think so, yeah, at this stage, yeah. And I think the more it grows as well, the more small and even individual people will be attracted to the movement.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the whole aim, is about, that this isn't just a group of people from Bog Hill, it's everyone, it is Ireland, basically.
It is, absolutely. And the beauty of the movement as well is that it's a grassroots-based movement, and that there's no hierarchical structure within the actual movement. It is all individual groups that are like cells in themselves, are doing their own individual thing, but are benefiting then from the exchange of information and ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, after we did Awaken Kerry, I actually got an email from a lady who attended, who she works in the IT as a lecturer. And she's very impressed about the Flouride presentation, and she wanted it to get to a wider audience. So she's asked me to send her on the presentation, and she's going to see in the health promotion department in the IT, will they be willing, to accept the presentation and to get that message out to more people. So
excellent. Is that Kerry IT, is it?
That's Treacy IT, yeah.
Treacy IT in Kerry.
Yeah. So that's good to be able to get to the young people and to the staff in the universities, which is the main thing, is getting the message out there to people.
Absolutely.
And as well, not just focusing on the Flouride, because that's not the only thing. Focusing on the wider picture of the whole Awaken movement, of people coming together, and coming together with proper solutions for Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you like to give a brief background into the Flouride, because yourself and your mother Martha, you really are working very hard at the moment to get the reality of the poison that fluoride is, hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is added to our drinking water. We're actually the only country in Europe that still involves themselves in that practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How we got involved with it, I suppose, was it happened this time last year, actually, in May of last year. We had the founder of the College of Natural Nutrition from Devon in the UK come over to Treacy, and she gave a number of talks in different hotels about mental health conditions, and focusing a lot at the time. She was mentioning that the fact that the water is being fluoridated is causing all of these neurological disturbances.
Yeah.
Not just depression and anxiety, but also things like dementia, Alzheimer's, motor neuron disease, and epilepsy.
Wow.
And she said it is absolutely criminal that the water is being fluoridated. So she really set the seed in our minds, myself, my mum, to really look into it ourselves and to start researching what was in our water. We didn't even know this before. Mm-hmm. She informed us. I'd never dreamed that this would be going on. But the more I looked into it, then the dots started connecting, because I see the sicknesses in my own family, in my own community, and in the country as a whole.
Yeah.
People's health is deteriorating, and so much so to the point that people are now accepting of illness. That it is the norm.
Yeah.
So that's really the most worrying thing. People just feel it's normal to be on different pharmaceutical medications for life. So for us, that was the main motivation to look into it and to really start this campaign. So as my mum is a teacher in Mount Hawk, we said, what greater opportunity do we have than to get it through the children and use their voices as a platform for this campaign. So we proposed this to a group of transition students in September of last year, and they were delighted anyway to take that on board. So we had Walter Graham then down from the north of Ireland. and he stayed with us for a week in our home, and he gave a presentation in Tralee. And from him coming down, he really clarified what was in the water, what it was doing to the body. You know, it made it much more real, because before that it was more of a concept. Whereas he showed us clips of the trucks coming in delivering this hydrofluoric acid, and then people having to wear full biohazard suits in order to put it into the water supply, because it's so highly toxic and corrosive.
Yeah.
So it made us so real that we were even more then motivated to try harder to try and, you know, get this out. So we presented then to Kerry County Council, and they voted afterwards to remove the fluoride from Kerry County Council. However, they then say they can't do so because it's written into law. It's mandatory since 1964. So they're following this, you know, out of date policy, which actually stated that it was to test the fluoride for human health, but this has actually never been done.
Okay.
So this is complete criminal negligence. Complete criminal negligence on their behalf, and so far anyway, Kerry County Council I've been in correspondence with a number of the councillors, and they are saying that they're fully supporting the campaign to remove fluoride, but they're saying, you know, they're highlighting the concerns to the Minister for Health. So that's all they're doing so far. They're corresponding with the Minister for Health, who is looking to this expert body of fluorides and health, which were established to review all of the scientific evidence. However, they are just blatantly lying, and they keep saying that there is no ill effects of fluoride on human health. But luckily, we have Declan Waugh, the Cork environmental scientist, who painstakingly put together this report, which I think took him over, 6 or 7 months, and he's highlighting all of the scientific evidence worldwide showing the human toxicity, the environmental impact, and the legal implications of water fluoridation. And he's highlighting that the Irish government, by maintaining this policy, are in breach of 33 EU directives.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is criminal completely. And for me, I think the most fundamental issue here is the human rights issue, that our bodies are being violated by a substance that is unlicensed, untested, and it's illegal what they're doing, and it's immoral, because there's no way in it. I don't understand how they keep justifying it that it's for the teeth, but they don't actually look at the rest of the body. They're just focusing on the teeth. Yeah. You know, so after Kerry County Council voted anyway, we went to the Dáil then February this year with the children from Mercy Mount Oak, and they presented to a group of 10 TDs. They were interested in the presentation, and they were a bit shocked, I think, after hearing a lot of the statistics. Yeah. But they said, we'll forward all these concerns to the Minister for Health. But sure, the Minister for Health then just keeps coming back with the same response, that the expert body on fluorides and health, which he thinks is obviously the panacea of all information, that they can see no ill effects, when all of the science that is being compiled in Declan's report shows all of the ill effects. And he's actually said that Ireland has the highest rate worldwide of neurological disease, the highest rate of diabetes, the highest rate of we have actually the highest rate of depression and suicide in Western Europe. Wow. And all these things are all because of the water being fluoridated. And it's so unnecessary. Like, so many people are sick, and it's destroying people's lives because of just this policy that they keep.
So the only answer really then, Aisling, is to bring these people to court, is to hold the government liable. Isn't that the only answer really?
It is, yeah, because following the presentation in the Dáil, I was corresponding with one of the TDs, a lovely independent TD from Donegal. He's called Thomas Pringle, and he said to me that the only way to stop the water fluoridation is a lawsuit focusing on against bodily integrity, informed consent, and mass medication. Not going down the science road, because even though that's very valid, if you go down the science road, that that argument will become incredibly messy.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have to be calling in your expert witnesses. They'll call in their expert witnesses. They'll discredit what you're saying. They have more money. They have more resources than we will ever have.
Yeah.
To just keep it.
Keep hiring all these expert witnesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll keep hiring them. They'll keep discrediting our professionals. So the whole thing could absolutely go completely pear-shaped on us. So I think the main thing is the human rights. The bodily integrity is being violated. There's no way that you can argue in defence of that, because it is happening.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can say it's not happening.
Well, what fascinates me, Aisling, is where did they get the idea in the first place that it was okay to mass medicate the population of Ireland? Where did they get that idea from?
Well, they said it was actually done. It was a book written by this investigative journalist, and it's called The Flouride Deception. And he basically, his name is it Chris Bison? And he's basically saying that how the myth was born was actually in the 1950s, the phosphate industry. This originated in America, that they were lobbied the government and the Dental Association. Basically, in their factories, they had this waste product called hydrofluoric acid. In order for them to dispose of that safely, it cost like $7,000 per truckload of this chemical to be disposed of safely. So instead, they had a brainwave, and they lobbied the government, and they gave unlimited funding to the Dental Association to say that fluoride is good for the teeth, and then they convinced them to allow them to put it into the water supply. So the myth was born there, with unbelievable amounts of money being able to spin out all of this lie, and the lie became so big that it just became ingrained in our psyche. You know, fluoride is good for the teeth.
Well, can I ask you this, Aisling? Do you think that the reasons why that they lobbied the dental associations in America and in Ireland to add this hydrofluoric acid into a water supply, do you think it was just based on the idea of they wanting to get rid of a waste product, or do you think there's something a little bit more sinister than that to it as well?
I think there's that side of it, the money side of it. I think the other side is the sinister side, which is a fact, because in the 1930s and 40s, fluoride was well known as a neurotoxin. That was well known. It's a toxic halide, and it actually depletes our bodies of iodine, because it's on the periodic table. It's actually there's fluoride and iodine, so they're antagonistic of each other. So when you're taking a lot of fluoride, it will start flushing out the iodine. And we don't have high enough ingestion of iodine anyway in our diets in Ireland to counteract the effects of the water fluoridation. So this was well known before this ever came into practice. So I think there is a huge impact on the brain neurologically. You know, it has a dulling effect on the mind, because there's actually been some studies done on rats whereby they were fed fluoridated water, and they were actually, instead of drinking water, the rats were going for whiskey and cocaine. And that was basically to try and open up the mind. It just, the fluoride has a more of a dulling effect on the brain, so you'd be more inclined to go for alcohol and things like cocaine and things that will open up the brain.
Right.
But you can see it anyway. You don't even need to be a scientist. You can see in Ireland that people are very docile. They take an awful lot from the government. This continuous destruction of our economy, the continuous destruction of all of our services across the board. And then you look at the other countries in Europe that aren't fluoridated, and they're out in their thousands marching on the streets.
Yeah.
You see them, and you think,
Greece and France.
What is it? Why can't we do that?
Yeah. Well, there's been a revolution. There's been some sort of rebellion for every generation for many hundreds of years now in Ireland, and all of a sudden there's been nothing since the 1916 Rising.
Yeah. So it's like they gave us our freedom. Then they fluoridated, and also after the 50s, when they promoted all the conventional farming, in the pesticides, you see, one of the ingredients that they've admitted now is being used is actually fluoride.
So, Aisling, then, in relation to solutions, is there a solution for the fluoride problem in the water?
Well, the main thing is to stop drinking the water, first and foremost, and either get a filter, or if you can access spring water, if you live near any wells, you can get like containers, like massive 5-litre containers. You could fill that up, or you could invest in a water filter. You get a water distiller, or you get a reverse osmosis filter. So the main thing is to be drinking non-fluoridated water, number one. So then your body then will be able to start flushing it out of the system.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is to start supplementing with magnesium, and a good form of magnesium to take is magnesium citrate. It's the most easiest absorbed into the system.
Okay, which I'm taking right now. And you want me to finish the whole bottle, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, and keep on at it. Because fluoride actually disturbs the metabolism of magnesium and calcium. So, you get plenty of calcium from your diet, but magnesium is actually deficient in all of the soil. So magnesium is one of the most important things to start supplementing with across the board. Okay,
well, my energy levels have increased since I started taking magnesium. I've noticed that.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
I'm delighted.
Yeah, they have. Now, I haven't started taking the iodine yet, because you have to take the course of magnesium first and then start taking the iodine. Is that right?
Yeah, elevate your magnesium status first of all, because that will get your detox pathways and your energy system much more established in your system.
Okay.
So another good thing then as well is to take the flaxseed oil as well.
Okay.
Flaxseed oil, you can take 1 to 2 teaspoons a day, and it's important that you eat it with protein source.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be with protein so it can be properly utilised. Then once you have those in your system, you're supplementing with them, and introduce the iodine. And the most effective way to supplement with iodine, and I suppose the most purest form, because with like radiation and with seaweed and things, you could it can be a bit risky.
Yeah.
The cleanest way to take iodine is in the form of Lugol solution, and you can order that from any chemist. You get quite a large bottle, it's around €26, and you could share that with about 3 or 4 people. So the cost is very minimal.
Yeah.
And then you just canter it into small little dropper bottles, and you start off taking 1 drop in water a day, and you can work up maybe 1 to 2. The maximum you should take really is 4 drops a day.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing is always, my policy is to start off slowly and build it up, so you're not giving your system a shock.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not, you could have a healing crisis if you did it too heavily, too quickly.
Okay.
But you see what will happen, you start taking in the iodine, all the fluoride which is in all of your tissues, in all your cells, that will then start to excrete. So as your iodine levels elevate, the fluoride in your system then will leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they that has the.
It leaches it out of the cells of the body, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll just excrete that then through your skin and through your urine.
Very good.
Yeah, so it's if anyone is interested in looking into that further, a good book actually by Dr. Brownstein, Iodine, Why You Need It, Why You Can't Live Without It. And he practices in America, and he does a lot of work with iodine, and he shows how he does tests to see the fluoride levels of the tissues and how that then just decreases. Brilliant. After the iodine supplementation, so it's very successful.
Excellent. That sounds great. I'm currently following this formula, and like I said, my energy levels have increased.
Oh yeah.
By taking
before I went on this, before I came out the water and everything, I used to be my mind used to be very affected. I used to get very low moods and very low energy, nervousness and everything.
Yeah.
And after 6 months of going on a holistic program of getting off the water, eating all just like mostly organic fruit, vegetables, and meats and fishes and things, and all the supplements, I'm like a complete different person.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show, I could have gone to the doctor and they could have said, oh, you have this such and such condition, and you have this is you for life, when it was actually the water and what I was taking in that was actually harming my system.
Yeah.
So people who are benefiting in this industry, I would say the pharmaceutical industry massively in Ireland. It's unbelievable the amount of people that are taking prescription medication for so many different conditions now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so within the Awaken Ireland movement then, Aisling, how do you see that developing yourself over time, and especially in relation to what you're doing with the Flouride?
Well, I think with the Awaken Ireland the whole movement will allow us to access all of these small active groups around the country, or even people who aren't even active yet, people who are that way inclined, that way, that they're thinking there has to be another way to the way that it's going. We have to do something as people.
Yeah.
And to get to those people and to have a sense of cohesion amongst people, that we are informed of what's happening. We are informed of what's in the water, what's in the foods, what's going on with our legal system, what's going on with the energy, with everything, everything in our whole across our whole life. And I think in relation to the Flouride campaign, I think the Awaken Ireland movement will allow us to gain access to these groups so that we can have a bigger voice. It's a platform so that we can access the people that we can't get to through, as we don't have the media on our side, we have to do it another way. We have to think of an alternative route to access to get to the people in the communities.
Sure.
So like after giving how many talks we've done Kerry, we've done Dublin, Wicklow,
Cork,
and now we're going to be doing Cork again soon.
17th, isn't it?
I think that's the 17th of May.
Yeah.
And then we have Waterford then in June. I just think that we're going to be we're at a time in history where we're kind of reaching a crossroads. And it's like people are becoming more and more uncomfortable in their homes, in their life situations. And I think people now have to be to a point of almost desperation that they're going to then say, right, we have to seek an alternative here.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we have that on our side. And then the fact that all of us we're all very positive people, solution focused.
That's
so
the key, solution focused, yeah.
Solution focused. And I think once you have that kind of framework, we have this kind of skeleton of people, but now all we need to do is kind of like flesh it out and just bring in more and more, and have a massive grassroots movement, because the only way that we can affect change is through the people, through power of the masses, basically. It's not going to be that we have convinced councillors to do these new policies or bring in this new form of energy or whichever we're talking about, or convince the government to do such and such a thing. It's that we need to have a whole new system on every level. I like the word that you always mentioned, the renaissance is what we're looking for.
Renaissance, yeah.
Yeah. So
a cultural revolution.
Yeah, on every level, because it's just. I suppose we all got wrapped up in the whole material world, and that was the whole driving force in society. It was, you went to school, you try and do as well as you can, go to college, get a job, get a home, maybe your starter home, then get a big massive home, and just keep consuming the whole time.
Yeah.
And with no real thought to anything outside of that, just complete individualized thinking the whole time, just you against the world.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now we have to shift that we have to go back to that. We are all very connected, and we need to go back to community involvement, and how only not long ago people were able to fend for themselves in their communities and be able to provide all their own food. They weren't importing foods from all over the world.
But now we export most of our food and import most of our food that we eat. It's crazy.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, and by the time the food has left the country and has arrived in its place of destination, that most of the nutrients have already left the food. By the time the food gets into our country, most of the nutrients have already left. And they pick the food before it's ripe, and then they spray it to stop it from ripening. And then when it gets into the country, they spray it again to make it ripen.
Exactly, it's absolute insanity.
You know, it's crazy. That is the way the modern world works. You know, we don't even eat most of the food that's grown here. You go to Tesco and most of the tomatoes are coming from Europe someplace, you know?
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's like, it makes no sense, because they were saying, you know, before, the whole saying was, an apple a day makes keep the doctor away.
Absolutely.
But in actual fact, what they're spraying on the apples now, actually, I heard from my friend who was in Australia, she worked in an apple farm, and she said that the sprays that they were using, they had to wear like all protective like clothing and gloves and stuff. And but it was a warning on the sprays. Do not let this go underneath your fingernails, because it can cause infertility.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they were eating that then.
You're spraying on food.
Yeah.
Come on, like,
That's
who are you
nuts.
kidding here?
Yeah. Well, look, that's what we're trying to stop, you know, and the only way you can do it is to do it from the grassroots up, and to help to educate as many people as possible about what's really going on with the fluoride, with the food, with the politics, with the economics, you know, with everything. And that's the only way we're going to do it, Aisling, is by just keep on communicating, keep on talking, and keep on spreading the knowledge that we have accumulated, you know, individually and collectively, over the last God knows how many years. We've all been at it for so long now, and it's now starting to come together, and let's keep doing it, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all have the intention now. We've all set the intention out in our minds, and we've communicated that all to each other. So I think that's very powerful that we all came together in a group and we've set that out. So I think, you know, everything comes from a thought. So we have the kind of the backbone now has been established already. So it just needs to play out now. And it will just evolve. We don't know which, you know, we can't say what's going to happen next week or what will happen in 2 or 3 weeks. But I just think it will just happen organically, and it will just evolve as it will, as it should.
Absolutely. Well, Aisling, thanks very much for your contribution to the show. And what we'll do is we'll keep in touch with you, and we might give us further updates in the future.
We have the meeting now with the solicitor Monday week, so we'll have much more information after that.
Great. Okay. Sure. Look, I'll get you on the show in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll get an update and let everyone know how you're doing in that area. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to speak again.
No problem, Aisling. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a million.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
And that was Aisling Fitzgibbon there, giving us an update on how she got involved in the Awaken Ireland movement through the Bog Hill Centre. And Aisling is a workhorse. She's been working very, very hard now over the last couple of months to really get this movement going all the way through the country. And she's specialising in the fluoride issue there with her mother, Martha. And we're going to finish up now shortly. But before we finish up, I want to play out the Banker Buster Bomb Irish Light Diffuse as part of the Kaiser Report. I'm playing it because, again, Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert, they are going to be part of the event on the 27th of this month in the Slorgan Park Hotel, and it's a real coup to get them to be involved with this, and I'm really looking forward to it, I have to say. So have a listen to this.
The global insurrection against banker occupation, the fuse has been lit. We haven't seen yet any major kabooms yet. Stacey Herbert, talk to me.
Max, and we're seeing, as part of this global insurrection, finally the Irish apparently are waking up. Growing anti-tax movement shows Irish stoicism wearing thin. So this is from the New York Times, and they're saying that the Irish have been famously very quiet during all this austerity in order to pay off the Anglo-Irish bondholders, the unsecured Anglo-Irish bondholders. But they're saying now, urged on by promoters of a tax boycott, fully 85% of Irish homeowners have yet to pay a $130 property tax that is due March 31st. The latest official figures show that just 225,000 property owners out of 1.6 million have paid a total of $20 million, well short of the more than $200 million the government was planning to raise to help support public services.
Well, this is getting interesting. We've seen a lot of uprisings in Athens, for example, but there was no real success in pushing back the technocrats and the bankers from destroying that country and selling the assets off to private speculators. The same private speculators are in Ireland attempting to seize control of the assets. The people are gathering. The people, it appears, Stacey Herbert, this could be the first movement, the first country to smash the bankers in the face. Occupy Wall Street failed. Athens failed. We need a winner. Ireland could be it.
And that was from the Kaiser Report. And again, 27th of May, be there if you can. It's going to be an amazing event, and there's so many different people involved in making this happen. And they jumped, from what I've been told, that Kaiser and Herbert both jumped at the chance to be involved with this once they heard it's actually happening. There were Engdahl and Ian Crane and John Perkins and many others that are going to be speaking on the 27th in the Stillorgan Park Hotel. And it should prove to be a fulcrum event that's going to change things in this country. I do believe it's going to be a very important one. Absolutely, you can get your tickets online there, and if you can get them, get them. That's what I'll say to you. So, Paul, have you got anything else you want to add before we finish up?
Just thanks very much for listening in, everybody, and we'll see you all next week with hopefully another interesting show. Stay
Absolutely.
tuned.
And we'll have Cathy Sinnott's excellent interview on children's rights, the legislation that is going to be looking like they're going to force it through there through a referendum, which is going to change our constitution again. So that's a very important interview. We will play it out this week, but we wanted to get Max Igan in and talking to us, as many of you people out there know that this guy has a very strong voice and has a lot of followers all around the world. And Paul, isn't he broadcast through America? Isn't that right?
I'm not sure, actually, James.
Okay, as far as I know, his show actually goes through America, but he's based in Byron Bay in Australia, the famous surfers area.
Surfers Paradise.
Yeah, and it's just south of the Surfers Paradise there on the East Coast. I passed by it there when I was over in Australia back in 2001. So thanks very much for listening in. And we're going to end the show, Paul, on an Aussie band's song called 4 Seasons in One Day, because that's the weather that we've been having recently. It's just been nuts, the weather, so. That's
not an AC/DC song, I know, James. Speaking of Australian bands.
Well, thanks, Paul, anyway. So we're going to finish up now with Credit House, 4 Seasons in One Day from me, James.
You mean it's not AC/DC?
It's not AC/DC.
Well, it's good night from me.
And good night from me.
Take care.